This
This next one. Really be. State. I think this.
I guess it's like, I don't remember. I guess it's part of it.
Enjoy.
Are you, do you come on Mondays every year?
No. I work through the week.
Oh, got it. You must stay right at that, you can stay outside. It made some.
No problem.
I don't remember how to do this.
Last turn now.
That's the plan. Yeah, I think we're big. I remember. Yeah. I like. Yesterday. And they're taking it to me for an she was gonna take off to the fair room or something. So I'm like, how are you? Okay, well, we. I mean. I just emailed one. Well, it's the 10, but they were creating, what I was using box grades. And you can power and I did now. Yes. But it's overgrown. It's not. Yes. Well, you can see that when you want 5 hectares. But I'm gonna ask you this. But I told you. Yeah.
I mean, you ready?
Yeah. He's an artist.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the November 2023 District 1 breakfast. As many of you know, every quarter I try to rotate the breakfast around a different part of the district since I started in office so that people can see everything else that District 1 has instead of just always staying at Atwater. So we come to our wonderful rec centers and other spaces in the community. Today we're at Edgemoor. Wanted to invite up Janae to welcome you all to Edgemoor and talk a little bit more about what the awesome stuff that happens here.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. I'm glad you could come. I recognize some of the faces here, so it's good to see you. I am the director here at Edgemoor Recreation Center. If you noticed on the walk-in, the plaza area, they call it the plaza, is kind of run down. Bricks are chipped, steps are chipped. That's actually on the Monday night's agenda, the update. They are going to redo that whole area. I hope by the next time you come here next year for another breakfast, it's all new and exciting. They're gonna put some trellises out front. It's just gonna look wonderful when they're done with it. So other programs that we have going on here are our exercise programs. We're in the middle of our fall session right now. Not just exercise, other classes. We have pickleball, we have taekwondo, white phoenix kung fu. We have some art type classes, cookie decorating class coming up in December. Our schedule is available in the Evolve Guide online. You're welcome to pick up hard copies. We have some in the office. We have a Kid Connection Camp. It's for in-service day camp for during the Christmas break when kids are out of school. We are taking registrations for that as well. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to call or email me. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, welcome today in the rotation. Fortunately and unfortunately, next year we won't be able to go to the Brewer Center. I'm hoping FEMA hurries up. We should be under construction next year, but we've had to wait on FEMA to give final approvals. They move at a really slow pace. The last report I got, which we'll hear Monday night at the District Advisory Board meeting from Public Works, was that we went through everything necessary. They have no more comments, but there is either a policy or a federal law that we have to wait 120 days on public comment, which means we may not start construction until May, which really frustrates me. So hopefully we can get through that, but that's why we won't be at the Brewer Center next year, but we are working with our federal partners to try to speed that up. So today we have, every month, as you know, we have different guest speakers. Today, many of the folks that represent District 1 on our many citizen advisory boards are here to talk about, one, their board, who they are, what their board is working on, and give you an opportunity to give some feedback as well. We have 21 boards, and I make appointments to most of those. Some of those are only mayoral appointments, but I get to appoint people from District 1 that represent the district on those boards and kind of move us forward in different areas, and you'll hear from many of them here today. I had picked on somebody to go first, but I said I would ask for volunteers first. So of the wonderful folks serving on citizen advisory boards, do we have a volunteer to go first? And if not, I will start pointing elbows. Like elbows at some
I can
people.
go.
You can? Okay.
I could go.
So Miss Lori Lawrence, she served on the Sustainability, Wichita Sustainability
Integration.
Integration
Board.
Board. Long name, but Lori Lawrence.
Okay, thank you, city council member. Yeah, Roy Lawrence, District 1 resident for more than 30 years. I do serve on the Sustainability Board. Integration means that it's a combination of city council, mayor appointees, and different departments. So we've got 14 people total, which I think is odd, an even number, because we could get stalemated at any time, right? I don't understand that, but it's 7 from city council and mayor, and then we have someone from the mayor's youth council, the bike head board, MAPC, diversity, inclusion, and civil rights, stormwater, parks, and transit. Right now, transit is vacant. They are trying to figure out what they're going to do with bike head and transit, if they're going to combine or not. I hope not. I don't think they have much to do with each other, but I've actually been on this almost since the beginning. It was just more than a year and a half ago. Anybody in here that knows me knows I'm an environmentalist. I've been working on Tasha to try to make some not getting styrofoam and things like that, because I mean there's things that we can do. We've done some really exciting things this last year. We were given by the city council by a vote $100,000. What we've chosen to do with that $100,000 is to ask the city to hire a sustainability coordinator. They have done so. This is a new person that moved here for this position, from what I understand. I haven't met him yet, but he is going to be at hopefully our next sustainability board meeting. So if you want to come and meet him and see who it is, we would love for you to tune in on Facebook or to come to the meeting at the downtown library at 6:15 p.m. on the 4th Wednesday of the month. So we've got that's piece of what we've done, but we also I'm sorry, I left my phone on because I made a police call earlier on my way here. So in case they call me back, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, the city was given $381,000. I hope that's not you, Gordon. I texted him on the way. I'm like, Gordon, out water, sorry. But we've come up with 4 different projects that we want that $381,000 to go to. One is working with SCED, South Central Kansas Economic Development District, to help to give them funds for their existing weatherization program so they can go farther with it. We also are hoping that they can work with us to put together kits for people, because these are homeowners. So much of the people of Wichita don't own, they rent. And they have, we know from Brandon's findings, people live in, I can't even say the word, I mean, horrible, horrible conditions. And so there is weatherization kits that right now Atwater still has some of, as far as I know. But we're running low. We're out. We got 2. Tasha says there's 2. But we're going to do more of those to give away. We're hoping to give them away at the neighborhood centers and maybe get them in the hands of pastors or senior centers or different places so that people can do that at their homes. Just like foam to line your window to keep the drafts out. Protectors over your plugins, your outlet protectors to keep the air. You'd be surprised how much air comes in through those. You would really be surprised. Go down there and feel them. You'd be surprised. So this is some of the stuff that's in that kit. And I think it's going to be pretty much the same kit. But we've got money going toward that. And we also, what we really wanted to do was plant trees. It's an environmental, and it would be more cooling than just about anything else we could do individually, but it didn't qualify. we were all not very happy because we were determined to do more trees. But some of what we're doing, I think, is spurring some of what Parks is doing. And some of what, there's other programs out there that are out there about planting trees. So I'm really excited about that. We need them on private property, not just city property. Right, and there's like a sapling program that, yeah, so I'm excited about that. I can't wait to get more, see how that gets going. We also, I didn't realize, it never occurred to me. Our stormwater system, you know, when it rains, it goes down the drain. It goes to different pumps. There are, I guess, 7 across the city. Apparently they take electricity. I don't know what I thought. They take electricity. They said those are really horrible energy consuming pumps. They did an audit, or we're gonna do an audit. They found 3 that they believe are the worst, but part of the money is gonna go toward an energy audit for all of the stormwater pumps. And to make recommended repairs, refurbishment of 3 of them. So just to decrease the energy use, that will save the city a lot of money. Because they're spending buku bucks on that electricity going to those horrible performing pump stations. They're probably old. I mean, isn't everything old? Aren't we? Another piece of it, though, the last piece of it that we decided on, we got a recommendation from the manager's office, I think, was retro commissioning and partially the filtration system at the WPD animal shelter. Animal shelter doesn't have much investment. I mean, they're not getting the investment they need. So this is something that we're going to be able to do to increase the efficiency there and to probably make the air cleaner outside and to make it cleaner for the animals that have to be housed there, at least temporarily. My goal for this board is just to get the city to be more sustainable. We have done some things already. I mean, and we've got things coming up in this next year. So it's really exciting. And I'm thrilled to be on it. And I know that I had a question about whether or not there are any seats open. There is only 1 seat open, but that's on the transit board. So you have to serve on the transit board to get onto this. But the seats will be coming up March 2025. Looks like they're throwing all of us out at the same time. So everybody be thinking about, if you live in District 1, apply for District 1. If you don't, apply for a different district, whatever district you're in.
Lori, you mentioned that there's a civil rights advisory board member that sits on that. Who is that?
Jennifer Brahan.
Okay.
Yeah, is it Brahan? Yeah, I only know, I've only talked to her Jennifer, so I don't know. But yeah, she's the rep on there.
I know.
Oh, good.
Like we should receive reports about that.
Oh. So anyway, that's my report. Does anybody have any questions real quick? Yeah.
So I'm kind of gonna pay my proper questions. What do you guys hope to achieve with the integration part of the board? We got a report out.
That wasn't our decision. Just saying.
Okay.
Well, but some of these are directly related, like stormwater, like bike ped, like transit. You know, as we make recommendations, but one of the things that I hope we're gonna have more ability to do now, once we have a sustainability person on board, who they just started last Monday, is to help them work through the city systems to maybe make some other changes, like helping Michael Tan to make sure that he keeps bringing in the electric buses. And if you don't know, he's getting new handicap vans, all EVs. 8 new vans. I know, that's so exciting. They're so quiet. They won't be jostled. I mean, those things are so nice. Yeah.
I have 2 questions. So I know there's innovations in transit, obviously, but like it being a sustainability board, are you guys making sure that those materials are sustainable? Like, even though we're getting new buses, where are those materials coming from and how are they being sourced? And then 2, is the city going to be offering, or do you guys have any intention as far as the board of getting a grant writer just for sustainability?
That is what the sustainability board, the sustainability coordinator is supposed to do, is write grants, so that there will be more monies. Where it's right now, it's just part-time. But we're hoping that this person will be able to write enough grants to fund their own position so that they can become full-time.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal, because we want full-time. So then they'll be able to work on that more. As far as the buses, Mike Tan's the one that does that. Proterra is the provider of our big buses. And we are on a lease with the batteries. So that if something goes wrong, they take the batteries back and they remove the one piece that's not any good, put in a new piece, and then it's back to normal again. But they send a new battery before they take the old one out.
Do you know if those batteries are being collected sustainably or are they running with?
Then, the batteries are brand new, because that's how you start.
Yeah.
And when, there's a lot going on with batteries and disposal of batteries right now. There's not a good way to dispose of them yet, but reuse is the thing. If you've ever met Kent Rowe, and you probably have, he's all about reusing EV batteries. He wants the battery out of my Prius. I'm like, okay, it'll have to be totaled, and then they even let me have it. Because it's got a core charge of like $2,500, and I would have to pay for that in order to take it out and give it to him. So I don't know if that's possible. But he's like, oh my God, I can use that to power my house. And he can recharge it with his solar and wind that he has at his place. So they are reusable for other use, not for cars. But there's a huge change right now in the batteries. And it's kind of like, which is worse, mining or drilling? And which has a greater impact on the environment over the length of a time that a car is running? Gas. Mining over the length of the time the car is running.
A 9-year-old
not.
in the Congo being forced into a mine.
But what I'm talking about is, I know, I agree.
Oil.
I agree. But it's not just that they're forcing the kids to do. There's more stuff that they're forcing children to do. There's a lot, and even some states now are allowing children to work, even in bars when they're kids. Some states have allowed that now. It's not just, no, I agree. But we've also got mining going on in the United States. I believe it's in the state of Utah. I don't think there are children able to work there. I don't know, maybe Utah's one of those states that did that, but things are changing rapidly in this field. Just like it is with solar, just like it is with wind, things are changing really fast. So what we think is true may not be true for much longer, or is it true anymore? So, yes.
Whose job is that supposed to be taking care of public utilities like home stuff like that? Whose job is to do that?
Well, I'm assuming that it's Public Works.
I'm not.
Yeah, well, and Brandon may know better than I do, because I'm assuming that it's the department that's supposed to take care of it.
Public Works.
They got to tell them to replace some pumps, and they're supposed to be public utilities.
The Public Works does an evaluation of everything in the city, and we get that report, and they put the things that need to be replaced in the CIP. We don't have enough money to replace everything right now. I mean, you're talking several $100 million to bring all of our infrastructure up to where it's supposed to be.
Now, what good is the advisory board to tell you what's wrong with it?
They told us,
Money to do it.
they
So-
told us what was wrong,
Yeah, I know.
and we decided to put money toward it.
Yeah, so they're
So-
looking into it, but I mean, so to say that, for instance, you look at our water system. We've known we've needed a new water treatment plant for years. That treatment plant is like 85 years old. We had a council willing to vote to build a $500 million water treatment plant, and it's being built. When they bring up other issues in the piping, I don't know if you've seen this, but we've been talking about our 42 and 55-inch pipes that need to be either replaced or this inner tube to go in there. That's in the CIP. As those problems come up, we put those in the CIP, we vote to approve the funding, and it gets fixed. So this is an issue. Maybe they can find an even better way to do that, because our Public Works, we look at the machinery, we put it in there. Maybe the advisory board finds something that works better, more efficient. They make that recommendation, it gets evaluated and gets voted on.
I don't think any of this has been voted on yet,
This
but
has not.
has not, yeah, no, they'll have to go through.
We advised the city years ago about the old piping system on this one thing, and they need to be replaced, and they didn't do it.
Are you talking about the 2014 sales tax that had all the water pipes that were supposed to be replaced?
No, the years ago, when the city was spread out, you know, all toward Maine and this way, that way, we said, you're putting pressure on the whole water system to get pumped water for those people. And now they're pushing now. Why didn't they do it then, back then? But they was advised about doing it.
So the city has actually been replacing water pipes every year, and I'll just talk for when I was on council. Every year we've been replacing that. I believe we put additional funds in there, and there is a long-term plan on replacement of the pipes that need to be replaced. Now, there has not been a huge injection of funds to do even more, but the city has been replacing pipes. Also, we found out years ago that there are no city-owned lead pipes going into houses. Now, houses may have lead pipes, but there's no city lead pipes in there. All of those have been.
Why do the city keep spreading out like you're doing on the development going on, and you putting pressure on those pipes? Old pipes,
But
you get water to them.
that is a developer question. That's not something that we.
Why they want the development to do that?
Developers go purchase land and they want to get that land platted and build houses on that. We can't stop them from buying land in those plans. The Places for People plan that we've been working on actually is focused on urban core building density, which means focusing on the inner part of the city. But if some wealthy developer wants to go out there and buy some land and they want to build 100 houses, they can go do that.
Let them do it, let them be responsible with it.
And they do. They by their special assessment, if you look at our council meeting in the beginning, there's a board of bids, and then there's forget the term right now. Those are all special assessments that the developers or property owners actually pay on their own to build out their water infrastructure, sewer, and roads in those new developments. So they actually pay for that. We don't. We just have to maintain it after it's built.
Yeah, but when the pipe goes, we pay for it.
Those pipes probably won't work. Those are brand new.
Because they're new.
paying-
No.
Yeah, they should be
No.
paying money toward the existing pipes
Get that
too.
water out there.
Right.
And that's where their
Right.
property taxes come back in to pay for the rest of the system. Again, sprawl is not something I've been supportive of, and it's not happening as much as it was. I think the pandemic kind of, tightened a few pockets on some of the developers, and a lot of folks are looking at infill right now. But there are some people still looking at building different developments out west. I think one up north. I know of one that may come out east, but that's just what those developers want to do. And it becomes a challenge for the city if it's built in a county area, they want to annex that into the city. That's only happened a couple times since I've been on the council.
That is sprawl is a problem, and I agree with you on that, council member, that Strong Towns is the name of a book, and actually Professor Russell Fox uses that at Friends, is he at Friends? Yeah, for part of his classwork. Strong Towns is exactly what we're talking about right now. If you can get a copy of that, you would really be interested in that book, I think, and I've read it a couple of times, so.
So good morning, I'm
We're never gonna get past me, but yeah, keep going.
So the water, is the new facility being built on West 21st?
Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah.
water treatment facility for all of our area?
It will be. Yes.
For the whole city, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but what's happened to the old one?
That is in an RFP right now. I sit on that committee. We selected one. I don't think I can talk about that right now, but if when that recommendation goes to council, they are going to determine what that reuse is. More than likely right now, that site is just gonna sit, even if it has a reuse, as a potential second water treatment plant in the future if Wichita continues to grow.
That's what I wondered, if they were gonna do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope the city of Wichita doesn't continue to grow
Population wise, not.
size.
Spread,
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, anything else? Shall we let the next person go?
Thank you.
Okay.
So Lori is awesome. Before I was on council, Lori being a environmental activist is always someone who's kept me abreast on SOAR and all things environment. So I've always leaned on Lori, and I think she does a wonderful job on the board. So appreciate her. Our next volunteer, Ms. Valerie White, serves on the Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights Board. This is what, year 2?
Yes.
Ms. Valerie.
Thank you. It's a great job, Lori. I don't know how I'm gonna follow that. Sorry. So my name is Valerie White, and I serve on the Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights Advisory Board for the City of Wichita. We also meet at the downtown library, with the Advanced Learning Library on Tuesdays at 5:30.
Every week?
No, we serve on this. Third Tuesday, every month.
Well, that'd be a huge commitment if it was every week.
There's also a link online. And these are some of my colleagues that are on the board, representing other districts. So why I wanted to serve on the board, I've been in Wichita for about 4.5 years. My family is from Ark City, Kansas. I left, went to college and other places and landed back home and chose Wichita to raise my daughter and grow a family in. And so since I've been here, I've lived in District 1 and I've gotten the privilege to meet and get to know Brandon. And I've always been the person that's like, oh, someone should do this, or someone needs to do that, and getting to know Brandon, it taught me that you can be the person that does that. You can be the person that brings representation, you can be the person that can play your role and you can change in a city. And so that is why I serve on a board. What initiative the board is currently working on? So we've been a board for about 2 years. And when they first formed, they got hit with the what's the name of that?
India.
The NDO. And so as the board was formed, they worked almost immediately on the NDO and helped the city of Wichita.
What's the NDO?
Non-discrimination ordinance.
And so since then, as we work on what internally what the board will be, so we'll be advisory to the mayor as well as the city council in ways that they can engage with diverse residents, organizations, and business owners in the city of Wichita. And the 3 ways or the 3 sections that we worked on that the city could do that is in equity and policy, program and services, talent retention, attraction and advancement, and community engagement and partnerships. And since we built out a whole entire work plan on how the city can achieve that. And since we built that out, they've also hired a new director of human resources. And so we had to slow down a little bit because, he had to get here. He's not from Wichita. He had to get to know what his job was going to be, get to know the city. But he's been at majority of our meetings that we met since he's been employed. And we're also supported by the assistant city manager, Dante Martin. But we've been working hand in hand with them, helping them kind of achieve a better place where people can feel like they belong. And
Bad. Just hired.
the director of human resources that we're doing with the Jason Hood.
Yeah.
So he's been with the city for about, is it 4 months now?
Yeah.
And one thing he's done since he's been here is he's hired a DEI specialist. So he's hired someone specifically working in DEI. Before Jason got here, they had a person that kind of focused on DEI, but their job was majority.
DEI is
Diversity, equity, inclusion. What? Diversity, equity, inclusion. And that person came from Wichita State University and did some similar work there. Also did similar work at Citrus County. So we've been working with the city of Wichita and Jason, and I'd say one good thing that's come out since we've been started working with them is they now have ERGs, so employee resource groups, and so we weren't given the names of the ERGs, but I know they're in the development phase, and so that just basically gives employees a place where they can engage with each other based on different intersectionalities. It could be Black women, it could be women, it could be men. So ERGs can have different names and bring different groups together, but basically it brings people across departments together so that way they can feel some type of belonging and have groups they can engage with as well.
We've had, what I found really interesting and helpful is they've brought each department where they're slowly, like every meeting, they will bring the head of a new department to come and talk to us and talk about how that department functions and what they're doing internally to promote diversity, and even in their policies and practices also make sure that, maybe look at historical inequities and their current functioning and figure out how, to do things better, with a better lens towards equity and inclusion. So, we've even been able to ask, the planning department about projects, like how they're prioritizing street repair and things of that nature. We've asked those questions, and I know when they presented, I asked about historically, how have those been determined? Was there any red line districts where we didn't do repairs when we should have? Because to me, I want to get to the heart of that and figure out in the future, we should be prioritizing them if we were not deprioritizing them, ignoring them in the past. So, it is not fast work, it is not quick work, but they are answering our questions. We're giving them kind of the things we want to know more of, some of our goals that we'd like to see, putting things on their radar, maybe, having them think of things in a new way because of our line of questioning. And then my understanding is that they will come back after, with their plans, what they're doing to try to address some of these things in the future. So as I said, I think I'm the newest member of the committee. I lived in District 2, so I'm District 2's representative from Councilmember Tuttle. But interestingly enough, because of the redistricting, I recently discovered that I live in District 1 now. So, I went to go vote, you guys, this is how I found out. I went to go vote and I didn't have a city council member on my ballot. And I had asked Councilmember Johnson in the past, I was like, you said it's over by Eastboro, like how far? But I went and voted, and then I told my husband, I said, well, see if you have council member on your ballot. And he said, I didn't have it either. So he asked the poll worker, and they're like, you're in a different district. And I do policy for a living, so I'm kind of embarrassed to tell that story. But that is what happened. But I'm going to tell you, my heart is in this district, so I'm excited that we're here, that our house is now a part of it. And now you have 2 representatives essentially from District 1, because I looked at the ordinance and it doesn't require that Councilmember Tuttle's appointee live in district, because I thought, oh my gosh, am I in violation of the ordinance, but it doesn't. So you essentially have 2 for 1 unless Councilmember Tuttle decides to kick me off. We'll see. We'll find out. But anyway, so like I said, I hope that folks will come to these meetings. That's one thing I know Ian has been really good about bringing up, the fact that we haven't really done that community outreach pillar, right? We haven't done that community engagement pillar yet, but we're approaching things, like I said, really thoughtfully, and looking at the systems within the city right now, which is really, a pretty good way to start the process. But I know we're all eager to do more community engagement involvement, and some of that can come from the community. I feel like there's a public comment period at the beginning of all of those meetings. So people can come and bring stuff to our attention at those meetings that, and maybe shift the discussion or force a shift in the discussion. It's possible. Communities are powerful, right? So anyway.
I have a question. You just keep referring to they wouldn't talk about the, what do you report back to, and where do you get your programs or whatever you work on from?
Well, as Valerie was sharing, we have a strategic plan, that we're following. And Dante is the staff person that helps move the work forward. He's in every meeting. Well, the city council, we can make recommendations to the city council, but we're just not there yet because we're still compiling, I feel like, the evidence, right? What's going on in current departments, getting that baseline. Is that how you see the work? Both of you?
It's basically, get the information and as they say, at times it moves the city government. Because we're definitely trying to move things forward and that's back we visit back and visit, but we always make the point to really go over things, to really make sure is this what we want, is this what the people want, is this what we want to put forward? Okay, we're here, now let's move forward. If not, let's revisit, let's make sure that it is right, because we don't want to put something out there that's gonna have a whole bunch of holes. It's not gonna prepare the city, to prepare the community. We wanna be sure everything is set in place properly.
I heard you say what the people want, how do you know what we want if you don't ask us?
That's where the communication piece comes from.
You don't ask us. Nobody asks us anything, you just do things. The city of Wichita just does things, they don't ask us.
And that's where we want to make sure that we fix that. I myself, I'm a district three. And what I have done is I have met with people, I've put my name out there, put my email out, the phone number. I reach out to people, I report back to my group.
You don't have that in District 1.
And to that comment, I will say, from my perspective on the board, I see a lot of places, I go to every Tuesday, I want to sit into our city council meetings. I see a lot of places where they do release things to the public, expecting us to figure out what's being released, where it's being released, how it's being released, and what and so. For me, my experience is I use the board also as one staying engaged with what the city council is doing, what the mayor is doing, and then pushing, like when they are doing a survey that's supposed to shape affordable housing, I'm trying to push that out as well, because a lot of times we don't see those meetings and we don't see those publications when they post it. And so that's one way I try to help as a member of the diversity, inclusion, and civil rights, is being more actively engaged than maybe your average citizen, so that way I can make sure to get that back directly into communities.
It's not really.
Well, and that is one thing, we did have a presentation on that community engagement survey, and we did talk about how we can be reaching, getting more feedback, getting more people to fill it out, you know what I mean, so that it is more reflective of the entire community. So that is a discussion that we've had. We've also even talked about contracts with the city, talked about how the city trying to have more diverse vendors in the contracting process, and how we can do better at that as a city.
My concern is that every other portion of the city is engaged. This is the one. District 1, Northeast Wichita, is pushed to stop. Here's bottom line.
Okay. So I've noticed, I've been kind of like butterflying around the city since I've been back about a year and a half ago. And I've noticed, because I'm a younger generation, there's so many older people in our community that are very upset. And I feel like there's such a huge divide and a gray area between getting very passionate elders in the community that have been fighting these fights for a very long time, and the innovation of a younger generation for us to kind of move forward with the intention to solve some of these underlying problems that have been very proactive in our community for a long time. How do you feel like your guys' diversity inclusion can help mend that and bridge that, and what do you need from the community to help?
And you're saying bridge the
Divide,
divide.
the divide in that gray area of the angry elders in the community that feel like their voices are not being heard through like diversity and inclusion, right? And the things that we have access to as a younger generation coming in to kind of take that torch. So what ways are we able to work together, and what do you guys feel like you need from us as a community to help the community back together?
Yeah, and I would say, just going back to your perspective, what we hope to do is take community input and direct it to the city of Wichita's work. So while we all believe we're a conduit to making community change as individuals, I think you can also come to the meeting if you come to us as we're meeting as working with the Civil Rights Advisory Board. We can take that input and, kind of pipeline it to larger initiatives and goals that we can help, meet whatever you all think is important.
What's important is that they engage with the community, which they don't do.
Right, and so that's why this board was created,
But you've been in existence for a year and I've seen no progress in that area.
From my understanding, because I've asked the same thing. As a new member, I've asked the same thing, right? As a new member, I felt like it's moving slow.
It's not moving.
Right. And I was told that historically, to this point, like there was a lack of direction for the task force, right? That there was, it took a while to even get the plan in place, to get the right people at the table and the resources to even start building a plan. Like, so its launch, I'd say, was slow, right? And that's again just what the story that I've been told, the challenges that have been faced prior, you know, to my joining. So I'm hoping now that there is a direction that it'll be better. And like I said, I will say, Ian, I'm gonna give him props here. He's been the biggest champion on this task force for getting out into the community, collecting feedback. He went to the local Pride, the LGBT Pride month, right, in June, and went to the big event and asked people, what would you like us to be doing? And collected that feedback, right? And then reported out to the committee. And I think we're both in agreement that we would like to be doing more of that and doing more engagement, at least helping like with the survey or something, right? To get the community. I do think that's part of our role. And so I'll also share the latest thing that slowed it down a little is we just had a change in leadership. So the chair used to be Pastor Pam, was the chair for the past couple of years. Well, until January, right? Until January. And we just had elections at the last meeting. So now Veronica, I can't remember Veronica's last name, Gillette. Veronica is now will be the chair coming on in January. So, you know, it's again, it's kind of slow going. We meet monthly for an hour, you know, maybe a little bit more. But I'm hoping that we will be able to, as this plan is being, as we're collecting this input internally, be able to increase our community engagement efforts as well.
We'll take 2 more quick questions, hopefully.
We got tired.
A little bit piggybacking what somebody was saying here, that older and blamed information and those who want to take it towards and move it forward. I think what she's trying to say is how do we, you in the conduit, to help bring that portion together? How are you collecting this information? How are you getting this information to the older generation and in turn getting it to the young? So, example, when I say it here is that most of these people you see here are neighborhood presidents or representatives and stuff of this nature. All of them with somebody's church. All with somebody's church. You know, sometimes I think just an announcement or a letter to these neighborhood presidents, to these churches, 111 of them in this community, that community. Yeah. So put it in your announcement that you just forward weeks, whatever that is on such time. Collect your information, you email it to us, publish to us. These guys, Facebook, TikTok, whatever the celebrity is that they need to do to get their information. They'll understand what we're fighting about and hollering about. And these are much more engaged and setting in positions. Many of you, you can do something about it, but you have to comment and find those common things and how you communicate with them. Trying to collect, say my emails out there, that's out there. You got no measurement system as to the responses that you're getting and how you tabulate the system. So those communication channels from the older generation, how you get into these young ones. But the biggest thing is let them know where you are and when you are, so that they can come and get that information or get that information to you. Okay?
And I'll say this, I'm sure it is a facility that seniors can access. Because seniors cannot get to city council meetings because of where they are. They don't have the physical ability to do that.
Go to church.
There needs to be a centralized place for these people. That is, you don't have to walk 5 miles to get there.
Well, it has crossed my mind that we should be changing locations, right? That we should be meeting in different communities to be closer to people. Right now, we meet at the library downtown. Every month, that's where it's at. but I know that that would also create more time and energy that staff has to put, you know, towards getting new locations and stuff, so I haven't broached that topic yet. But I do think it's a really good idea.
Well, we can open up our city transit and give them total access to this city, the bus passes, get over here when you trying to put this shelter. Why come we can't do that for our seniors to get to these meetings?
It's also part of our things that post town halls. I will say a lot of the work we have been doing has been like internal work of how this board can operate, how we make sure we're all on the same page. And with the community engagement portion, out of those 3 keys, hosting town halls is a part of that.
You know, I think just a high level, shotgunning everything out, see what kind of response you get back. And when I tell you these mechanisms, whether they be neighborhood meetings, they meet every month. It's like everything else, they go to church more times a month. Or more. And here, you should shotgun it out there and then gauge where your responses, your feedback is coming. You'll know how to coordinate those town hall meetings. I guarantee you, those neighborhoods butt up to each other. Some of those that you want your responses from, and here, just the neighborhood next door will tell them you need to be at that meeting. Now, there will tell where this is over here, that you need to respond. But you have to shotgun it, and then when that information you get back, you can kind of focus in and help them get that information out. You gotta get out here, just trying to have a town hall here and a town hall here, just in a whole year, have a town hall meetings.
You want to accomplish it?
You want to accomplish it?
All right, one more question and then we have more people to.
Yeah, I got you one.
She actually had a question.
Yeah.
But he basically said, he kind of stated, but we want to know, how are you publicizing the information? And we can't have the meeting a little earlier in the day, because some of us older citizens. Is it meeting?
This young woman, so.
It's on the 3rd Tuesdays of the month, at 9:30.
Yes.
Well, if it's gonna be Zoom, it's part of it, they need to be facilitating and taking questions from that. They need to be able to.
Whatever mechanism they can gather information.
I think it allows for that.
The one question I would have, how much money is from? City from? Another dime. You ain't going to. Don't take
All
money.
these internal talks, I'm
They-
tired of that.
They see if there ain't no money there, they ain't going to work, you're not gonna get anything done. Kansas City is gone. They put 28 billion into that area over there. Tulsa is gone, they said, go see what Tulsa is doing. They're gone, they don't put y'all there to win. You're way behind, you never catch up.
They ain't trying
If
to,
they ain't push you no money, you ain't gonna.
and all these internal.
Say, go take money. You
Not-
So I appreciate y'all, diversity and inclusion.
And I will say, I think all of us will take this feedback that we heard today. This is great that Councilmember Johnson allowed the time, because we can take this feedback to the committee next time.
So can we get contact information for the different boards, maybe in the next newsletter?
Yeah, we
I
can
mean,
do
that would be good if everybody had her phone number.
that. Email.
Text, email, yeah, text, email,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, so that people can contact if they have questions.
Yeah.
And council.
So before the next person, any more information that you may not have got on diversity, inclusion, and civil rights board is that it's not cool yet. It has been a long process to get going. Each council member actually gets 2 appointments and the mayor gets 5. Each council member has only made 1 appointment thus far. When that board started, it was an advisory board to the mayor. We had to take the additional effort to make it an ordinance, an official permanent board. They were given direction from that advisory board and they've been working on that since. As a council, we agreed to not fill the board because they needed to get a foundation under them. That's why no money's been spent. So once we get to a point where we can appoint the second person from the district, I'll see if Total will keep you on and we'll have 3 district.
There we go.
Don't tell anybody. But once we get to that point, we'll be able to get to some additional work. So for instance, one of the things that we've challenged the board with, and Jennifer Breon and especially has been talking about how we do our contracts and how do we get more minority vendors. That's where your money comes in. If we can get more minority contractors getting some of the 80 or so million that we spend every year in the city, that continues to help our community. But those policies have to happen and they're taking those steps to build that foundation. Again, government moves slow. A lot of the transformational change that we want to make is going to take some time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to convince people it's the right thing to do, but it is going in that direction. I'm hoping that in the next year, we can get to that second appointment. And that's when we'll probably see more engagement going with them. And then we can address more issues that we have. We have more issues than you heard today. But again, that's where some of the roles of the citizen advisory boards come in. They can focus on those things, get that engagement, and help make those policy recommendations. I do have a few more people that I've appointed that do some really good work. I'll ask again for volunteers before I appoint elbows. Anyone representing District 1?
No, it's not me.
So Mr. Kelly here represents District 1 on the Ethics Advisory Board. As you know, that was created and led by Mayor Whipple. On that board, she represents District 1. They have the fun job of holding us all accountable. So they've had some busy work to do, but Ms. Jack.
So just a little bit about me, I'm a transplant, but my husband and I have been here for 12 years. We came from Newport News, Virginia, there's Air Force. And that's important because we've always had that government thread in what we did. But we decided to settle here in Wichita. We were intentional with wanting to raise a family here. We saw the potential, we saw the, and I know this could go a lot of ways, but the accessibility to a lot more things than back east when you have parking and cost of attending meetings and, you know, getting to your mayor is like 2 month wait to have an appointment with your mayor and not even your council members are not as personally engaged. So we saw the opportunity to engage in Wichita as a very attractive aspect of living here. I have 3 kids and we raised them here since then. I've worked in government my whole life. I used to be a government contractor back east for machine technology. When I came here, that opportunity wasn't here, so I went to law school. And I went to Washburn Law School here. And then when I graduated law school, I worked at the Sedgwick County DA's office as a prosecutor. And then after that, I went to Bel Air as their city attorney. So prosecutor, you know, more day to day, you're handling individual crimes. In my case, they were low level crimes, right? And you're trying to work out deals and work with people. As a city attorney, you're advising the governing body on the decisions that are doing more like in-house counsel. So you're recommending how they should handle contracts and what happens when they get sued, and you're bringing in other attorneys to help them. So it's a very different role. So I did that for Bel Air for 5 years, and now I work for Derby. I'm the Derby city attorney. That's all important because it kind of plays into how I see my role on the Ethics Advisory Board. I was honored to be appointed by Councilmember Johnson, and I think that, you know, he thought about my skill set, being an attorney and kind of looking through ethics and contracts. So that's a lot of what we do. We are supported by the Wichita State University Public Policy and Management Center. So Kathy Sexton over there is our support staff, and she guides us through different issues that come across the council. So council passed a policy on how they want to govern themselves, how they want to handle ethics. And they created this board to use that policy to handle when they do have conflicts or when an ethical issue comes up. Our board reviews that action under the policy and then makes recommendations to council on whether or not whatever council member or mayor did was ethical in light of that policy. I think one thing I love about that, because it's not like, nah, I think it was okay. You know, they made a really strong effort to write a really thorough policy to capture things that might come up, but they didn't touch everything, right? So we have to be objective, we have to be, we have to be like facts, and we have to tell them, you know, your policy, this isn't, or let's say somebody did something. We have to advise them on whether their policy is comprehensive enough to cover everything, and it's never gonna be. It's never gonna cover everything, but our job is to use the policy where it works and then let them know where the policy might have gaps. So I came on it last May and we had one kind of busy case and then we haven't had much going on since then. Right now, one thing we want to do, we want to look at the policy and make recommendations to them on what areas it can be strengthened. So that's one thing we want to do. We meet the second Thursday of the month. So our next meeting is actually we're not meeting in November. We don't have an issue. It's actually driven by council's discussions and you know, complaints that come up. We meet the second Thursday of every month, and our next meeting will be December 14th at 6 p.m. and we meet at the Evergreen Community Center and Library. So, again, another aspect of why I enjoy it, just briefly, you know, government gets a bad rap, but I think your Wichita Council as a whole is trying to, you don't have that magic policy, but they're trying to manage themselves by bringing in community members to call the balls and strikes on some of the hard things that they have to do or some of the decisions that they make. So take the great service and answer any questions anyone has.
Some of your ethical issues, you guys ever bring them to the citizens review board, or have you guys like in the weeks together?
We haven't, so I've been on since May and the two issues that came up, we did not. But I can see how using all the resources available could be a good thing. So,
Are you guys like similar at all, like
kind of, but I think citizens review board is for police action and other action. We're more just for the governing body. They want to have a committee to police themselves. That's it.
Thank you.
Governing body and advisory board.
Is it confidential or those meetings, close meetings?
I think that's a great question. There are open public meetings, but unfortunately, because there are investigations done and there's some private information that comes up, we do go into executive session a lot. So you can find yourself coming to a meeting and we'll read the issue and go to executive session and come out and the meeting will end. That's just the nature of some of the work, and it does need to be that way. But at the end of the findings are posted.
That's not inclusion.
Ultimately, the findings are posted on the website, so you can always see the result.
That's not inclusion.
Right, so during the investigative process, some of the stuff can't come out. But as the investigation is complete and a finding is made, all that stuff goes back to the public.
How many people on the board?
That's a good question. I think right now we have 6 or 7. I think that's you on the specific.
But you don't need to, or because you on time, it's like not having a problem.
Correct. Issue based.
You got a problem.
How do we submit issues? Is there a way that, or is it just from what council tells you guys the issues are, what does the public allow? If you guys can see.
We don't expect you to see from the public, but I believe that you can contact your council member and find out how to submit a complaint that way. There's actually, you can go right to the website.
Yeah, you can submit complaints on the website.
Yeah.
So if you think a member violated the policy, you can submit that complaint and then they'll have more work to do.
Can you have that link?
This, we have a lot of, otherwise we don't understand.
Yes, that's all on that one.
Yeah.
So,
We need a link to the
Try
website.
about those.
yes, and that's what she really good website, because it has the policy, it has the next meeting, it has findings that were made, so it's, once you get to that page, we'll get you the page, it's up there.
And again, it's only the elected and appointed citizen members on the advisory boards, and it only pertains to the policy on there. So if you think you've seen a violation of council policy 39, I think it is, then that's what you would report. Nothing else goes to
Right. If you don't, like, let's say someone voted away that they didn't, they told you they were gonna vote, that doesn't fall within the scope of the policy, so it's limited.
We ain't gonna bring you here.
Right, but I think some things that you might see as wrong don't fall under this ethics policy, so it's just something to make sure that policy needs to be revised. Maybe.
A little bit about with her again. So whatever you have, so I think it'd be great if Brandon publishes the monthly newsletter and he puts his website and connections, the links to go a little deeper into your thing. I think when you do hold this session, maybe you should allow maybe 15 minutes prior to going behind the door to talk about it if you're for the public to speak. That way they can come directly to that meeting, give you some input to take back to the back room and discuss. But you got to have a voice for the public to be able to say something.
I think that's a really good suggestion. I don't see why it can't be done.
Okay, there you go. Put it in box.
My first reaction, I don't know if I got myself, but I can take it back to the board.
All right.
Thank you. Ms. Jacqueline is awesome at everything she does. Simply continue to come up, I can help everybody right now. So if you have a smartphone, you can go to wichita.gov. You can click the Citizen Advisory Board tab. Wichita.gov, Citizen Advisory Board tab. Every single board we have is listed there. Every single meeting date, time, and location is right there. So any specific boards you want to look at, again, wichita.gov, Citizen Advisory Board. You can see all of them.
I think it's
You
board.
can also see the vacancies on the board.
Yeah.
If they are updated, so if it's something you want to serve on, you can apply. Those applications stay good for 1 year. If you want to be like Wichita's most informed citizen, who we have had the fortunate privilege to see in some time, Mr. Lonnie Wright, he tried to go to every meeting. And I think he actually did. Not Lonnie Barnes, Lonnie Wright. So we miss seeing him around, but you can go to that website, you can see every single advisory board, all the meeting dates and times. You can even see the members. So all of that's on there.
In your contact, right?
And contact.
There are.
Oh, I didn't say you did that. I don't know, he just hasn't been to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
No. All right, so I have a few more members. So I do have some DAB members. You all can come individually or as a group if you want to talk about district advisory board.
Yes.
So we have two wonderful District 1 advisory board members, both less than a year on the board. Yep, so both were excited to join and get involved. Not to steal their thunder, but they are the advisory to the council member. So they always let us know what community thinks on the various zoning issues. So those meetings once a month, you all have been wonderful. So turn it over to you.
Okay, hi, my name is Sheila Banks, and I serve on District One Advisory Board. One of the reasons why I wanted to serve is I grew up in District One, born and raised. I went to elementary in District One, middle school in District One, high school in District One, and I graduated college in District One. So District One was a community that actually raised me and helped me become the woman that I am today. So I definitely wanted to be involved on the board to not only hear the community concerns, but to also be a voice for the community in certain like concern. You wanna? I don't know. You are so late, you have so much. We meet every first Monday at the Atwater Center. So the first Monday at the Atwater Center. You can also go on Zoom and participate in those meetings. We do allow the public to give presentations. If you wanted to talk about any concerns in District 1, we do give you time to do that. So every Monday, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, so.
And check the agenda before the meeting to see, check the agenda every time.
Yes,
Because there may be something that concerns you. My neighborhood came out with several people there when something concerned us. So be sure to check the agenda and go if something concerns you.
Where do you guys meet at? Yeah, Atwater. So we do, these reports from different departments, so Wichita Police Department, the Fire Department, Parks and Recs. And Wichita Public Library, so they give us statistics, reports, and let us know what's happening in the district tomorrow, so. Yes, ma'am? Question?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna do really on, but I can't wait. You guys are with the zoning, right?
Oh.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yes, yeah. We are, the zoning cases are presented, and then we have open discussion, and then we make a recommendation to Councilman Johnson, and then the actual decision is made.
So y'all recommend their truck stop.
I want to know.
That was District 6.
I'm sorry, that's not our district.
I want to know what the zoning was with. To add into Anjaneya's comment just now, to what happened with the zoning for the truck stop? Because yes, it is.
Again, that's District 6.
It might be District 6,
Yeah,
but it's 6 right next to District 1.
yeah.
It will affect District 1.
So the short answer is, while that's true, that was District 6 and the District 6 Advisory Board would have heard that and they did. The zoning that was there already would have allowed Loves to come, and that's why they were coming.
That was changed April the 27th of this year by the.
So the vote, because that was a lot of the misconception out there, the actual council vote was not to allow Loves to be there, they were coming anyway. The council vote was about the sign height, the additional parking and additional days for what are those vehicles?
That's all.
RVs. So that's all that was. So that council vote was that we could have said no, Loves was still coming anyway because it was on.
But they had voted, District 6 voted down what they could vote down. The city is the one that took.
And again, to the point that they made for a District 1 advisory board or any district advisory board, it is only an advisory to the council. The city council can make the final decision. Now, the district advisory board can change what that council vote looks like. So if they voted down, MAPC approves, it can go from a 5, from a simple majority of 4 to a majority of 5. And then if there's protest petitions around that, that can make it a super majority requiring 6 to overturn a decision. But district advisory board, again, is advisory. They do have some power in their votes to change the number of council votes needed, but they are an advisory board.
So can I do my part first? Yes. So my name is Natalie. I was redistricted, I'm in Rockwood, and I was actually the one who informed our homeowners association that we were actually changing districts effective January. And I was so very pleased to be asked to be part of the DAB. So I started kind of the civic engagement journey with the Civic Engagement Academy back during COVID on Zoom. And you learn so much. You just learn so much, and then you just want to know more and more and more. But it also gave me an avenue for that energy that I wanted to, put out there in the universe, because, with the Board of Education, I knew then which way to go and how that's impacted in the city of Wichita versus the county. And so I just have been so honored to just even have the opportunity. And the organization through Tasha and Councilmember Johnson, it's amazing. And so what I hope is one of the things that we wanted to present was also kind of our hopes for the DAB, for this position we've been put into. And one of the things that I would really like to see, and Tasha and I talked about this briefly, was kind of looking at the last previous votes on the decisions. And I'm slowly getting through a year ago. So I was put in this position in January. So I'm going through all of last year's and then visiting to see how our recommendations have actually impacted the city of Wichita, and slowly seeing that and making sure that, as a group, because we have very open discussions and everyone brings a different perspective. I just love everyone's experience on the DAB, and I just have absorbed so much and trying to put that into really effective decision making. So I appreciate the opportunity. So yes, so now what questions you have?
Sarah.
So with the zoning, how do you guys exactly advise the council? So per se, a situation happens, like it being maybe less than 800 square feet between, the laws of. With the Lowe's gas station, right, there's like 800 feet between the residential property, even though it is a zoning issue between.
Well, I
districts.
can tell you the
Like,
process.
how does that work?
So what happens is, several weeks before we get the actual like data, so we get the zoning cases that are gonna be presented, so for example, Monday night. So we get that email, and then we as a group are really challenged to actually physically go look at what it is,
So
and the
did you guys
zoning.
look at the zoning with the.
I'm not, we didn't, that's not our district.
Because we did, it's not in
It's
district,
not our
we didn't
district.
get it, we don't see it at all.
So is that like a gray area between the city and the.
If it's in a specific district, it only goes to that district advisory.
So our only zoning cases are in district one.
I know,
It can be right on the
like,
line.
take out that invisible fence of like districts and just think about humility and humanity. Even though, yes, it is separate districts, it's 800 square feet between the next residential property and who will be affected. It's all polluted,
I'm
so
sorry,
like.
it's not on our radar.
I understand, but that's what I'm asking, is how do you guys advise the board when situations like that come up with between zoning within districts, because that's what you guys are focused.
But those district advisory board meetings are open to people outside of the district. Like you as district one could have gone to the elaborate.
Because that is sitting right there, it may be in District 6, but it is affecting District 1.
Right, so
So there needs to be a way for District 1 and District 6 to collaborate and talk about that issue.
So the
And to
challenge-
engage the people that it's going to impact.
The challenge that we had, what we faced with even that suggestion, while we focus on the one issue, if we have border issues changing from SF5 to TF3, if we have an issue going from general office to limited commercial and it's on a border, now we're asking both districts to have those meetings. It doesn't have to be Love's, but if we get into those housing situations and you look at other things, now you're asking both of those districts to have a meeting when really it only lands in one district. And that's the district legally that has more of the influence. One district can hear it. And if, you know, if one DAB says, yes, we like this, no, we don't, that actually happened in District 4 and District 6. I forget the item, it was West Douglas. West Douglas, one DAB said yes, one DAB said no. But it was right there on the border. But those things don't happen often, so there is no actual policy requirement that border zoning issues of districts will go to each DAB.
Like I said, we need some reality with that.
That's a different board.
That's not.
But Monday night, you can come tell the DAB that.
We know where it's starting, that needs to change.
Go ahead.
We're gonna help her out. So, and you process of how this zoning is communicated and trickled down. So there are publications available that go out here, about the advanced planning, metropolitan planning zoning groups in here. And so that little group meets, they pull out information to give change, so the planning, the metropolitan planning group in here. And so they kind of scrub it, make some recommendations, they drop it down to the metropolitan, they're the advanced, they drop it down to the metropolitan area planning. District 1 has a representative set on there from the training. Pitfall, we should have gotten information, we could have gotten information, but it doesn't. And so when that information comes down, it talks about the whole city. And so when you see those, they'll talk about class change applications in here, they will give you boundaries, area in which they reside. Here, when you see the areas that reside, get those fields that they're gonna be talking about that reside in your area. Then you need to be there, you need to know about it. And so they're having a discussion, so your representative said on the MAPC in here, William, where his name is?
John Williams back.
Williams Bay should be trying to funnel that information out himself, he votes. He makes recommendations there as well. And so that information also comes down, their recommendation comes down to you. That word, well, we recommend such and such pool or disapproval in here. You guys get it probably a few days before your meeting. And so at your level, it drops here because a lot of times you don't have time to go investigate the issue, look at the zoning or any of that, because you have limited time, but the time you can be back. If you're not familiar with the issue and the nature of what's going on, then you have to rely on what's said at your DAB meeting, what's presented. So they always send somebody in the city, giving their presentation of what those zoning changes are to answer those questions. But the community hasn't. Most of them, unless they really monitor it, follow it, then they don't give a chance to give the recommendation. So you guys make your recommendations, sometimes half-heartedly and just based on what you know to Johnson and to the council, city council, those recommendations, they look at it and vote on it, and it's done deal. So we got a lot of pitfalls in there where information could have been and should have been given out. And here, and part of that's our responsibility to monitor that first advance meeting comes down.
So 2 things on that. That conversation should happen with the district advisory board, and it's one that I will be honest, they talk about. They talk about quite often. Also, Natalie mentioned it, but I challenge every district advisory board member to go to every neighborhood where a zoning case is and review that, look at it, talk to people if they can. And every developer that comes to me, I tell them to have those meetings. But the main point of your conversation is not district advisory board. That has to be said to the council. Since I've been elected, I have been trying to get the notifications changed.
Yes.
I've been trying to get it changed from just property owners to renters as well. Even with this Love's case, I brought that up at a workshop that the radius needs to be more.
Right.
And every step of the way, from the planning, the Advanced Planning Commission, council workshop, I get shut down. It's only me saying that. So if we want to have that discussion, which we need to have, that needs to happen at the full city council. They need to keep hearing it, because if not, this is gonna stay the same.
I totally agree with you. They need to have it, but these are the people who need to be at that council meeting, voicing what you're asking for, and they're not. You got neighborhood presidents in here, I'm talking about how information funnels down. If it's something that's happening in their area, even if it's a renter or anything, whatever is happening, change, the president should get that notification. So he'll know.
Some of them do.
One point, so just going back to kind of our purpose, so the entire DAB District 1 has been very dedicated to this, and all of our emails are on the website. Every email I get from a community member regarding the zoning case coming up, I respond to, and I think that is the same as all of this. So I mean, we are doing our due diligence, the conversations are excellent that we have, the dialogue is on point. I am very proud of our town.
So I'm just gonna echo this portion here. District 1 is huge.
Yeah.
It is huge. And so when you talk about representatives settling this forward in here, if there's some things that are happening in just a little square mile radius, hillside to the bypass and 29th over to 13th Street in here, there are representatives in here who should be reaching out, saying, hey, we're familiar with this area, we're monitoring it in here, we're gonna these presidents that reside, these neighborhoods reside in here, know they need to be in this meeting, paying attention. And so when I say District 1, you talk about Broadway, always clean over out south, down here up the Woodlawn.
Broadway is District 6.
No, I appreciate that, because then, I'm all about, time and efficiency, because a full-time working person, very involved. I appreciate that, because that would then, as we get the information, really reaching out, like you're suggesting.
But what you're telling me is, if I had talked to her on the District 1 advisory board, she told me, well, that's not in my district, I can't do nothing with that. So that does not help us.
You can look at what the district is, you can contact the people that we know.
That's the problem. Many of my residents went to a city council meeting to address this issue, and we were refused the ability to speak. Because
Council-
they tell us we were at the wrong meeting.
Council policy is that the public meetings are the DAB and MAPC.
It's the witchtalk.gov, and then you go under, if you actually go to Councilmember Johnson's, he has a whole DAB. So like you just select DAB, and then it has all of our names listed and contact information.
You had a question here.
Yes, I was gonna comment something, as a former dad member for you. The zoning things has changed. You can't go down there if you see more, and go in and ask the question. You cut that out.
Right.
There's the distance between, when I first came to Wichita, we thought it was 1,000 feet. Look what it is today. It's not just Councilman Johnson, I appreciate your fighting to extend that and do some things with it. But I hate to say this, they're taking the power away from the residents. That's the problem. You can't even say anything about what's happening to you next door.
I'm working on that. We found out we actually legally don't have the power to force them to do that, so we're trying to work that.
This is where something needs to be changed, right?
Yeah.
Now, for what I've heard at this meeting, when you said, the developer run the city.
That's right.
Yes, the developer run the city. Are you, no, what you said that, the developer run, the developer, you go for it, then you out.
Right.
So that's true in some ways, but not really. So if you take what I said earlier about, yes, if I had $50 million and I see some land out west and I want to buy that and I want to build on it and I want to develop it, I have that right as a property owner to go to the city and petition for that. If those boards voted down, I can't do it. If they approve it, I can't. Is there influence there? I think some people care more about some developers than not. But ultimately, if MAPC votes it down and DAB votes it down and council votes it down, they don't run that show. It just depends on what the development is. If we see a benefit, if the DAB sees a benefit and MAPC sees a benefit.
You know they run the show. You know that.
I don't, because no developer runs me. I don't care what anyone like that says. And I can't say every council member does. The problem has been that when you look at MAPC, and I hate to take up their time, but when you look at MAPC over the years, it has been business friendly, which means if a business wants to develop, they tend to do that because they believe that's going to be good for the city. Historically, it has been that. They have voted some things down. I know some people still feel like they are, but this council makeup is different. So you don't see some of those things that may get passed, ultimately passed by council. It doesn't happen all the time. So that's why I say it can be true that they are very influential. If they buy various amounts of property, if you look at Fairmount, we had developers owning 400 properties, they owned it. So if they wanted to rezone it, and they were also the adjacent property owners, they could say, I want to rezone this. As an adjacent property owner, I don't care, I like this, there's no protest. When it comes to MAPC, there's no objection. When it comes to DAB, there's no objection. When it comes to council, there's no objection. We just have to look at how that impacts the neighborhood, but ultimately and legally, we can't continue to deny someone who owns all of that property, because if we did, and there's one case that may come back where we may get sued, they could go, and there was a case that we base all of this on, Golden, I think, versus the state of Kansas. They can get overturned by the court and still happen. So we try to balance all of that. And one of the things that frustrates community so much, and it's true, and it came from that case, we can't just deny something because people don't want it.
Right.
It has to meet several different factors. And if it's only, well, they don't like it, so I'm voting no, and the majority of us vote no and it votes down. And then that person says, you know what? They broke my legal freedoms and rights. I'm going to sue you. And then it goes to district court and the judge looks at it and says, it's only because the neighborhood doesn't like it. It's overturned. And I know people hate that. I don't like that, but that is the legal basis we have to work for. And that's the thing that frustrates everybody the most. So it's not that they run everything. It's just those legal pieces, and that's statute. That's not ordinance. And that's what we have to follow.
Sometimes, Brandon,
there are exceptions. I've been a neighborhood leader longer than I like to say. But I do know that Brandon and Lavata especially, that, and I've gone to the DAB meeting enough to know what's going on and enough to metropolitan to all of these things. And there has been changes, but as a brand leader, I have seen some changes. I have seen when the metropolitan thing voted against it and DAB voted for it. And then it went down to city council and they voted 7, all for the neighborhood. I've seen the opposite. So to say that one group is always in control, you have to look back at historically what has happened. And I can speak as an active voter, I always vote, with Brandon and Lavonta, that this, I have watched it closely. And I know a lot of us in here have. And this is not consistently true that a certain group runs the council. And when you look at these ads about people saying this has happened and this has happened, all you have to do is read and attend meetings and represent your deal. And I remember when we could go and speak, and we can't. And I have read about what you're doing right now to try to extend the deal, you know, the distance. And I support that, but it is the statutes that have changed. I have a granddaughter who's, well, you know, I have children that are doctors, you know. And so you just need to read the change in statutes. And all of us here read well. And we think.
Got 2 more appointees in the room. And again, after all the appointees, if we want to have deeper dialogue about anything, I always say to have that conversation if we want to. Ms. Bostic is right on the statutes, right before I announced them, just some of the challenges we face right now. So state statute empowers people within 200 feet of these zoning cases to protest. Part of the discussion we're having and trying to find a legal pathway is, even if we as a city extend our notification 500 feet instead of 200 feet, state statute only allows 200 feet to have the actual protest. You can still protest and we'll see it. So when you see the council presentation, you'll see the property, you'll see the circle, that circles to 200 feet. How many properties within there protested? There's also other people who protest. I care about that. But legally, that's what matters, is the 200 feet. We do have an ordinance that escalates that notification depending on how big the development is. But again, it is state statute. So a lot of the challenges that we are looking at and why some of this takes so long is, as I look into an issue or have a stance or belief on something, working with legal, then we find out there's a block on the state level, which then means I need some collaboration on the state level. I will tell you, all of our state reps, across the go, Representative Parr, Representative Housing, Representative Culberson on most things are supportive of those things, but we need the actual Kansas House to vote yes, at least the majority of them in the Senate to say yes, and I'm sure Governor Kelly will be supportive if we got to her desk, but a lot of this is cross-governmental collaboration that has to happen, which is what takes a lot of time. And I try to do things that will actually stick and not something that we feel good about short term and then it gets overturned because we didn't do all our homework. So that's what takes a while on some of these. And I'm happy to have more conversation about that afterwards, but I've got to.
She said the right word again, and that is VOTE, vote.
Yeah.
Not only local government, that's why we said about state, because they understand.
That's right.
That's your election. So, got 2 more appointees. I don't know if I'm pointing the elbows. Got Ms. Donna Pearson Cliff. She was the first person appointed to the Food and Farm Council. Happy to have her. I made the first appointment, Mr. One, best of luck. So they are looking at a lot of different things, and this is making that actual board took us one step further to potentially getting some federal funds at some point. But as you all know, Donna Pearson Bush is amazing in the work that she does with Common Brown Road producers. Just feeding people, bringing food to where they are, all the work that she's done across the community. So I was honored to appoint her and honored to know her and turn it over to her.
Good morning.
Do we need to stretch? I'm a former educator. Do we need to take a deep breath and stretch and okay, get some more coffee or donuts while we queue up this? I don't know where. I'm looking at it.
Oh, I'm in front of it.
Let me see here. Where are you?
So this is the first page and I have all the meeting information.
Yeah, okay. This is-
So this is touch screen. No, ma'am.
I need to go through the plan itself. Master plan.
Jason. See that?
That's why we did way 250. How many did you take?
Okay, here we go. So how do okay, go on up. Keep going. I'm going to,
No, they're actually.
go, improve access to healthy food. Yes, page 15.
Are we ready?
They're ready.
How those he have, oh, no, that meeting was. I didn't know you had. That explains it.
Okay, I think it'll work.
They're all on this page.
Okay.
Then it goes up.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know they went to the cheaper clothes.
So if I, did you go to?
Probably. We had no choice.
A summary of the.
Really no. We only got a year. That was here. So we were trying to do most that we could. And we only had more than.
Okay.
And it printed. It had.
Okay, man.
Yeah, that's. The fire is like. If you have been. We're actually.
Okay, don't go keep going.
To get them back.
Okay,
Was my.
Did it go off earlier?
It's not very.
I'm about to say.
They are not getting my.
Let me see here.
She wanted to say about this.
Okay, good morning.
All right, we're gonna get back started.
So I'm. My name is Donna Pearson McClish, and I am CEO of Common Ground Producers and Growers. We are a mobile farmers market and mobile food hub. We are headquartered in Wichita, Kansas, and we are a nationally recognized organization. We've been here, our family farm has been here for 55 years now. We are the only largest Black-owned urban farm in this area. So some of you have been out to pick greens or get Purple Hull peas or talk to my parents. My parents started this work. And my father was a farmer.
I am also a farmer. I farm with my brothers. My mother was a community advocate. She used to go in the community and do surveys and do all this kinds of things. And she used to ask the community, what are you going to do when there are no grocery stores? That was back when I was thinking this morning, back on 21st, Razooks and Jabars was on the corner. We had these little small grocery stores, and she'd go in the community and say, what are you going to do? We don't have grocery stores. So now we don't have grocery stores. If we can go, we start at I-35 and we go over to 21st and Woodlawn. And if we start at 37th, K-96, and go all the way to Douglas and Hillside. We have convenience stores, liquor stores, Dollar Trees, Dollar Generals, but we don't have any grocery stores. So I serve on the Farm and Food Council. And the purpose of the council is to convene diverse stakeholders to advocate for an equitable, sustainable, and resilient food system in the city of Wichita and Sedgwick County. So what we do is when this, can you see this? I'm in the way. When this study was done, we're gonna talk about the Wichita Master Food Plan just a little bit. When the study was done, 2013, and then the master plan was adopted maybe a couple of years ago, there were 44 square miles of food desert area, food insecurity area. Now, can someone tell me what a food desert, food insecurity area is? Other than Northeast, so they have a 2-on-4.
Like, no access to fresh food.
No access to good healthy food, but what is one of the prevailing factors?
Within a mile?
Within a mile, there is no grocery store that you can access fresh healthy food within a mile of the residents. So Common Ground, we were originally formed in 2014, was through our 10-year anniversary next year. We provide access through our mobile farmers market to all of the districts in this area except 2. District number 2. So we serve all of the districts. We have locations, senior locations that we serve in all of the districts except District 2. So if you go anywhere in Wichita, during the season, you'll see our truck rolling, and we provide access to fresh healthy food to those senior populations that do not have access to it. We also provide to families, individuals, churches, any place that we need to bring food, we take food to so it's accessible. A lot of you have never heard of us, and it's kind of quaint that we've been in Wichita all this time. We've been doing what we've been doing, but a lot of Wichita does not understand what we do. So when I got the invitation from Tasha, I thought this is a good opportunity to do several things. 1, to tell you about Common Ground. 2, to talk about farming. And 3, to give you some updates on what's going on the national level with all the farming and initiatives with the Biden administration. A little bit about myself. I'm the oldest of 12. We have 12 siblings. 3 of us are 4 of us are farming on the farm. Everybody is scattered all over the country. I'm a mother of 7. I'm a grandmother of and I serve with the Kansas Farmers Union. I serve with the National Farmers Union as a delegate on their policy board. I also am appointed to the State Board of Agriculture by Governor Kelly. So when I come to you with some experience, some knowledge, some information about what's going on in our areas regarding the food system. And I want to ask you that, let me get back to the Farm and Food Council. So I'm appointed to the Farm and Food Council. Our goal is to bring the stakeholders together about the farm issues, the food issues in Wichita, Sedgwick County, and to work on some solutions. However, I want to say this gently. We've been working on solutions a long time. We've been at the table a long time. We've been talking, we've been meeting, but we got to do some hands-on stuff here, solve a few issues in our area. 67214 has been deemed by the United Way as the poorest zip code in the state of Kansas. Our goal is to put that Because we believe, Common Ground believes that everybody has the rights to have accessible food. So, with that being said, our goal is to increase local food production, increase access to healthy food, build communities' food culture, support community health and wellness. So when we talk to you about food, we're talking about how the social determinants of health affect our communities. When we talk to you about food, we talk about how we're going to get food to you. So with that, I'm gonna ask you, what are we gonna do about the food? How are we gonna do it? And where are we gonna do it? Because it's gonna take all of us to combat food issues, all of us to combat all of these issues in our communities. It's gonna take all of us with boots on the ground. We can sit and talk in meetings all day, but who's going to do the work? That's where it starts. Thank you.
So I've read the food plan, I looked at the food plan, and the challenge that I have with it, and I think from what I've heard Councilmember Johnson weigh in on this, is that there's not enough tangible there, just like what you were saying, we've been talking about solutions for a long time. It's gonna take policy, so I appreciate that you say that people need to get to buy in, it's gonna take people on the ground. It also takes governmental investment,
It does.
right? We need money
Yes.
to affect this, that's the only way that is gonna change. And this RFP for $1 million, they didn't even get any takers. They didn't get any takers, right? So I mean, I want to see the policy, and I agree, right, that the people need to rise up.
Yes.
And they need to rise up to demand change, demand that the council really put investment in this, and that means money.
Exactly, and those are excellent points. First of all, the governmental system and the people that are making the decisions have to believe that food must be a policy issue, not a profit issue. Food has to be a policy issue, not a profit issue. When it becomes a policy issue, then you begin to look at equitable access across the board. Okay? There has to be investments by our community, by our council, by our government. It takes money. We are a nonprofit. We have been solely funded all of these years through donations, our family, kind of self-funded. In 2020, during COVID, we were awarded one of the first seven grants from USDA for urban agriculture. We were one of the 7 recipients, and that was our launching pad. Because in 2020, we partnered with our community partners with the Farmers to Food Family Boxes, and we distributed over 1 million pounds of food. We were on the go during COVID. And we had distributed 33,000 cartons of milk. So when people have food that's left over, or the dairy, Highland Dairy had milk, they would call and say, we've got milk, if we've over processed or we've got an overabundance because school's out here, do you want the milk? We had trailer, 16-foot trailer with loads of milk. So we distributed the milk. However, getting back to the policy issue, America has to begin to look at food as not profit, but policy. And it's going to trickle down. The administration is doing a much better job at it. There's lots of funding for people that are wanting to do community gardens, and I'm going to give you some information about that also. But our goal, we have Common Ground has 3 goals. 1, we're going to pay our farmers equitable wage for what they do. 2, we're going to keep our prices low so people can afford it. And 3, farmers have to begin to feed their communities. I don't care if you have a backyard garden, you have a 5x5 plots, that produce that you produce can impact your neighborhood and your community. So we're gonna have to go back to the old adage that farmers feed communities. Even though one of these days, you may not be able to get bananas and avocados and mangoes. Now, COVID showed us that there is a disruption in the supply chain that we don't have control over. So if the grocery store shelves are bare or limited, that limits also, and take this as a grain of salt, I have nothing against food banks. But that also limits what food banks are giving. They're already stressed. So we as African American people in our communities, we know how to grow food. We know how to grow food. And so our communities have to get to the place where if you need something, we have to become neighborly again. If you need something, I've got some potatoes, you can grow potatoes in a bucket. You can grow tomatoes in a bucket. You can grow squash on a trellis. You can grow food. So in small spaces. So I encourage you to think about who in your neighborhood is growing food. We would like to partner with those people so we can pay you to grow and to support your community. Okay? That's what we're gonna get at.
Okay, my thing is, okay, so like, I have some property that we're not using, that we could probably your garden.
Okay?
But my thing is once you start that garden, you have people that come in and will take it. And you don't, I mean, you don't have anybody, I don't have really have anybody to supervise it. Where people would come in as you grow it and then they're taking things, so by the time you get ready for people to.
So that's why we have to, as a community, collectively, we have to develop plans to use those properties. One of our growers has moved from west of on Seneca out to 37th and Broadway. So we have to develop plans where we as a community can work together and say, okay, what do we need? What do we need to do? What do we need to make this happen? Because I personally believe that 67214 does not have to be the course zip code. We serve several seniors centers in that zip code. And I'm gonna get your questions. Senior market vouchers. How many of you get your senior market vouchers? If you're 65 and over, income eligible. How many of you know about your senior market vouchers?
No, I do not.
So the income guideline?
There's an income guideline. You have to talk to your Department of Aging. But if you're 65 and over, and I see your hand there, you're 65 and over, you have senior, you may be eligible for senior market vouchers. When we started in 2014, USDA decreased the amount from $35 to $30 because seniors weren't using them. Does anybody know why seniors weren't using them? Because you have to use them at a farmer's market. Do we have a farmer's market in our area? No.
Tell me this, was can't you use them at farmers market grocery store on Broadway?
No.
They have a program, they do have a program with people that have SNAP. That they can
SNAP.
double benefits or.
Yeah, that's double up.
Maybe you should incorporate some stores, spending on stores like that.
Senior market vouchers are used only at farmers markets, like the one at downtown, the one on Ridge, and the mobile market. So we began our work because seniors were not using their vouchers. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I think that everyone should have access to clean, healthy, affordable, or free food. Like that is just a part of sustaining a community for me as an environmentalist. And I love that. So thanks.
Thank you.
To add to what you were saying, is that they're offered, you can get community garden education through ARP. There are whole pamphlets to show you what type of like garden that you may want to curate, as well as how you fund for it and continuous support. I run a nonprofit, and I speak to tree huggers, and we just have people all the time that does things.
Well, we need to connect,
Yeah.
because all of these people that are calling us in June and saying, how can I start a garden? You need to be starting your garden now.
So even if
yeah.
it's like, 3 to 4, even of your neighbors, it's just getting that community together, and you guys can totally curate just even a growing type of garden that will produce food abundantly. There's so many innovations as far as water conservation, like you don't even have to even worry about water in some of these modular and satellite gardens, so.
There's different styles of gardens, raised beds, there's all kinds of, so we're gonna have to get back to feeding, helping to feed our communities.
Yeah.
Question, sir. Okay, all right. So, I have a question. Yes.
Agree to what Ms. Siegel said a while ago, we have properties that can be utilized for gardens. But we need the ability to secure that garden. Is what she's saying. Because if that garden is not fenced in, if it's not secure, if it's not monitored, then we don't get to harvest. Because they harvest in the night while we're not.
So, I understand, so
Is there funding to do that to a project?
there may be. But my question to you is, if they're harvesting at night, if they need the food, how can we open it up so it's not that? Well, I guess we do put it like a slump.
I mean, they know that it's gonna be given away, it's just that that's the nature of the beast, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if it happens because of need. Or if it happens because it's there and kids ride by, you never know.
Well, that's something that we need to tackle, because I know that could be an issue. It's something we need to tackle before this next growing season, so we put that on the chart. Yes, sir.
So. I understand what you're doing in your, I call it a band, I really call it a band. And I come back to policy that she's talking about in here. A lot of our communities, we treat a lot of the rural countries, we get pop-ups, drop-offs, pantries and stuff, this thing. I appreciate good food in here, but I also need all the other features, toilet paper and aspirin to come along with it. I need soap, I need places to furnish everything that makes it a healthy lifestyle. In the city, subsidize aircraft,
Pickleball.
if pickleball, they subsidize bringing in airlines to come into the airport. Then why can't they subsidize grocery stores?
Because remember my first comment, it has to become policy, not profit.
And so,
That's a shift in the mindset of people that are governing us.
but it's gotta be a shift in the mind of the people who think that, oh, this is the only way I can get it. I don't grow it myself, if I have somebody deliver it, all of this, so you have to educate them to the thing that they should be at these city council meetings. Saying we need a policy change. Telling our councilmen, telling our representatives, we need a policy change here. Because all over the city, you got major stores, grocery stores, chains, and everything else to pop up in there. But we have to suffer with pop-ups, drop-offs, and everything else here and grow our own. Brandon, he'll tell you, when he started out, he tried to grow a garden next to our church, where he rent out a big old lot. Now, somebody got to water, somebody got their weeds, got to do all this, and we, our young people have a clue on what to do, or how to pay for the water.
I think you have a good point, Lonnie, but at the same time, it comes a point in time where, while we fight the good fight for policy change, we can't minimize the value of empowering ourselves. And I think what we're talking about, we just can't minimize. This is a conversation, and so both conversations are important. And at some point, they got to meet in the middle. But we can't just exclude this conversation while we fight this fight either.
But I'm not hearing the policy fight. I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing.
We're doing the policy fight. We're at the table here. But like Councilman Johnson said, there may not be very many of us at the table. So this is a mind shift, even within our own city, of looking at food not as a profit issue, but a policy issue. Believe me, I've gone to the city council I've talked about the healthy corner store.
I've seen it, and I'm not.
Yeah, I've
I'm
talked
not
about the
downgrading
healthy,
it, but
yes.
it's okay.
I disagree. I don't feel that it's a Band-Aid. I think it's the beginning of a working solution for what we need to do, because we have to get back to community.
Well, the one thing that people like, even myself, I like to know consistency in the drugs that I take, I like consistency in the food that I get, whether it's the meat, the produce, or anything else. I'm not trusting everybody's produce to come out with weed, insecticides, somebody use something else, somebody else use something else. I look at this one, it is nice, this one looks like he didn't water it enough.
I can trust my backyard quicker than I can program.
But that's
We'll
where,
answer that, though.
I do, that's where training comes in. And that's a good segue, because that's what we also do. So I'm gonna give you some information. I know it's time. Time is up, but I'm gonna give you some information about our training process. So for those of you that wanna start a garden, that wanna start a garden, we do training. We will have a training in Salina, Kansas for new beginning BIPOC farmers. We have received funding for, we have received funding to elevate BIPOC farmers in a 12-state region, in the Midwest region. We have expanded 12 counties down the I-135 corridor to provide food, to provide assistance, technical assistance, outreach, training. So if you know anybody that wants to start a farm, anybody that's into farming, anybody that's thinking about it, we have training in Salina, November the 28th. It is our pre-convention Kansas Farmers Union training with Common Ground. There is training all over the place. There's extension, there's information everywhere if you want to learn the garden. Everywhere. Yes, ma'am.
To add one thing, I think that, yes, there's a duality, like you have to take profit out of it, but also I think through action and education of the age groups, the younger generation coming up, and taking the knowledge from the students, but no so many schools, I mean, the food adversity problem in the top for a long time. I think we're really creating community gardens, no matter what it's not, you're able to get inspired to grow change. Because you're gonna, and the way I think of it is you're gonna have to do something with that. Because I don't, once you learn how to grow, it's like grow. And there's always, you're going to choose profits through creating your own farmers markets, getting people involved, getting people sourced in. So you can ultimately business. And I know the city has plenty of resources to help young entrepreneurs to get any kind of relationship started.
And we will work with you on expanding your markets. Several of our farmers, we work with the network of farmers that grow for us. And several of them have no longer go to the farmer's market because we buy all their produce. We move thousands of pounds of produce a month. And this card right here is our information. But if you want to garden, you got to know that gardening when you plant a bean, you don't get just one bean. You got to know that you've got to water, cultivate, harvest. You got to take care of it. And so when people call us and say, well, I want to start a garden, well, what tools do you have? What do you know about gardening? So this training is a beginning for you. There's scholarships available. And if any of you want to go to the training, you don't tell anybody, but I'll provide your mileage back to and from Salina for you. I'd like for you to become involved in not only the state, but the national farming movement. There's so much information out there. And if we've got to get out of our silos, we've got to start thinking outside of our boxes. There is all across the nation, urban agriculture is the going thing. However, Kansas is one of the leaders in the urban ag movement, Common Ground. So when you go across the nation and you talk about Common Ground, they'll know what you're talking about. So we're a well-kept secret, and that's good. But our Kansas communities we're the only farmers market in Kansas, and we were one of the first mobile markets in the United States in 2014. So we've got some traction. I am encouraged, I'm excited about what's happening with the food system. Yes, we do make some gigantic mistakes, and the Healthy Corner Store initiative was maybe not thought out well. So, well, they're going back to the, huh?
That was very kind of you.
We're going back to the drawing board. To see, how that can be redone. So, and sometimes it takes that. The other thing I wanted to tell you about real quickly was, if you know a farmer, and I know you guys know farmers all across the United States that are kin folks and that are doing farming. If you know a farmer that feels they've been discriminated by USDA between 2021, there is funding for them to be able to be paid. So I'm telling you that I was in Tuskegee, Alabama last weekend. And the prevailing thought is, if we don't get it now, we may not get it. So now is the time to move and do what we need to do right now. If not now, when? If not you, then who? So if you want information about the discrimination, we'll be doing training on that. You got local support for your gardens. So there is no reason why, if you want to grow, you are not growing and getting paid for it. That's the good part. Okay. Thank you all. If you have any questions, I'll stay for a little bit. Thank you, Councilman Johnson.
Thank you.
So we've got one more presentation, and then I know there's some discussion folks want to have. But I will say, I am happy you're going back to the drawing board on Healthy Corner Store initiative. And that has been in almost every publication that's out there, my thoughts on it. So I am glad that we are going back. Our last presentation, Mr. Hamilton serves on the, man, that's a long name. Let me see if I can get it. Wichita Employment, Retirement.
Yeah. You got it. Well, I waited to go last because of the board that County Johnson appointed me to. We help the city manage essentially the pension fund for the city. We want to make sure that it's invested correctly, because the pension fund is funded two ways. One is from your tax dollars to support the city employees that work for you. The other is by taking that money that's put into the pension fund and investing it in many different investments across the nation and the world. So we have to keep an eye on that. So I'm a certified public accountant. When I say that, everyone just goes to their mobile phone. But that's why he appointed me to the board, is because we're a group of accountants, city finance people, community activists and attorneys that really try to keep an eye on this and then ask the hard questions of the actuaries of the investment houses. If we see something that's not going the way we believe that it should, we'll put them on what we call a watch list to make sure that they know that our eye is on them, and we want to make sure that those funds are invested correctly. Beside that role, we look at the city employees, we listen to them, and we try to get plans that work well for them. We recently, one of the latest initiatives has been to adjust the interface that they have as they retire. Make the website better where they can look at that, and I feel like they have a little more control. That's been a big project for us. We are made up of appointees from city council and then city attorney and the city finance department. We do meet once a month on the third Wednesday, which is sort of like the ethics board. It's an open meeting, but we have to discuss folks that are filing with disability. We have to discuss folks that are out filing for early retirement. So we have to go into the executive session, we're talking about individuals and their situation, so. You're welcome to come if you, with our 200-page packet they hand out, it's full of numbers. But part of it will have to go to executive to deal with individual pieces, so.
Name of the board.
The name is the Wichita Employee Retirement Board. And we meet jointly with the Fire and Police Retirement Board. That way, if we have all those funds working together, then we charge lesser fees by the brokerage houses.
I thank you for your.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask, one of the things that I've struggled with my 401k with my employer is that they don't have any green options for me.
They don't.
Are there any green options for the city of Wichita, please?
Not fully green, but we do, I will tell you one thing that we do invest in is timber.
Is what?
Timber, we're one of the only retirement plans in the nation that invests heavily in timber.
Okay,
And
that's
so-
not necessarily green.
Well, it's sort of green because they replant.
They
It's
replant
it's
little
all
baby trees.
sustainable there, so they take
Not really,
acreage,
but
they
yeah.
harvest it, and they replant.
Right, yeah, they replant little tiny trees,
They
so,
do.
but it's
They
not,
grow the big
it's not
ones.
as sustainable as it sounds.
No, it's.
But that's what I'm wondering about, because I have another investment that I have from my capers that went into. And it is with Green Century, and it is all no fossil fuel. But your funds,
We do not have those available.
that's what I'm asking, that's what I'm asking, if something like that would be
Yeah, I
available.
would say
if I work in the city.
90% of our folks are actually in the pension fund where they don't invest their own dollars. But
Right.
because they get a fixed amount, once they retire, we have a very small percentage of city employees that actually choose the option where they can invest their own money in the 401k type option.
Right, yeah, well, and I have some different options that I could choose, but there's nothing that is what I'm looking for. So I take it all out as soon as I'm able to, because I don't have that choice.
There you go.
That's why I was asking if the city might offer that to their employees.
We can talk to our vendor that manages that little sliver where folks can have the 401k type option.
Yeah, or whatever it is, whichever funds that you're talking about. There could be that option.
Certainly. You have a question?
Does your board have a focus for or against ESG investing?
The board does not have a focus against ESG, that's for sure. I do know that we recently had our vendor come in and talk to us about ESG. And there is a slice of the money that is invested there, but overall, it's just, there's so huge, we're managing $1.4 billion. So it's hard for us to get too much of that over into a specific type fund, but there is a piece of it as we watch that area grow and the profitability, because again, our main tenet is to make sure that your taxes don't go up and have to pay for these pensions, and to make sure that our pensioners do get paid. So as we see these investments get to where they are returning enough where we can do that, then it is a consideration, it is something we discuss.
What's in ESG?
Environment, social, and governance. And a lot of companies that report that, there's no standards, so they just make something up and qualify it for it, but if you're ESG investing, you're skipping over stuff that could be making better money, just because it's Philip Morris raising under Winchester.
And I will tell you that is on the agenda on a regular basis. And if we do watch that, we do believe that those investments eventually, as our society shifts, we believe that those investments will actually start outperforming the broad market, but we'll see. Until they do, we would violate our responsibility by going in that direction.
Who's your third party?
I'll have to get back to you on that. They come and present to us about every 2 months. But I cannot think of the name of them right now. It's not something that you would hear out in the regular world, so. I can get you on that, my contact information is on Councilman Johnson's site.
Sorry.
My name is Arlen Hamilton. Are there any other questions?
And you're a volunteer also, right?
I'm a volunteer.
Good, that's another thing to highlight is all the people we've heard from today are volunteers, 100%. City of Wichita is not paying anybody for their input or time or anything. That this is truly voluntary. And that if we did pay volunteers, you might have more diverse volunteers, right? So that's something else that I think in the future is a conversation that the city council should be having as well. There are communities that currently pay different task force members, like as an example, right? If you're gonna agree to be on a task force, you know, the nonprofits that participate in everything, the people that participate, their time is money. Their time is worth reimbursement. We would have more diverse, equitable engagement if we were able to at least give stipends to folks. That's another thing I believe strongly about, but I wanted to thank you because I know you're a volunteer and just all these people that spoke today, just also that's more perception that these are people that are just giving their time 100% voluntarily. So I'm thankful. And you've mentioned how much money and everything that you oversee. I mean, it seems like a big job.
It is a big job, but
Yeah.
all these things are big jobs. We have issues. That's why I waited to go last. There's a lot of things that people are talking about today that touch you a lot more directly than this does. But I did want to attend and say your councilman's very thoughtful about who he appoints to boards.
You're saying he has good taste. I mean, I agree.
I've seen him dress. I don't know if I'm gonna go that far. But that's it. But I will tell you also that I love Wichita. And I want everyone to have as many opportunities they possibly can. One way to do that is to make sure that pension plan is not hitting the front page of the newspaper. So we take our job very seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got it. Take care. Thank you all.
All right, so we heard from some of the folks that represent District 1 on the different boards. They are all volunteering their time. I appreciate all of them. Today was not a mandatory thing. I just like to invite them out to talk to you all about the work that they're doing and to hear from you all. With that, we are at the end of those presentations. I know some of you are here to have discussion about other issues going on in the city. I will tell you that Monday night at DAB, if you are interested in those public work projects and hearing from them and learning about the improvements that are about to happen here at Edgemoor, with the trellises and the pergolas and all the really nice stuff that happened out front and stuff that flooding that happens in front of the front door. Be there Monday night at Atwater's at 8 o'clock, and you'll hear from Public Works and Utilities that come out quarterly. They'll also talk to you about the challenges we face with FEMA and the Ferguson. One of our favorite topics. Other than that, I know some of you are here, you heard the news, the emergency winter shelter being over on 21st Opportunity Drive. That was a decision that I think most of us are not happy about. That ended up being a space that the city owned and was available. From what I've seen on social media and some of the calls I've gotten, there's a lot of explanation that has to happen for anyone who's not been following the work that the city, county, and state has been doing on homelessness. If you go back to really years ago, but I'll stick with this year, this summer, we all know that the Salvation Army shelter closed. The other thing that happened was Union Rescue Mission had closed. It's now going to be open. And then the Humankind shelter has infrastructure issues. What wasn't public was that we actually had vetted about 7 to 9 other buildings before this happened, and this was a last minute happening. We were actually on the day the contracts were supposed to be signed, and I won't name the institution downtown because we're still talking to them, but the day that everything was supposed to be signed, they backed up. And so when they backed out, we had to figure out if we were gonna try to wait until January, while we were already facing freezing temperatures, to see if we could get some other building going, or try to find a way to house people right now. We were in the middle of an RFP process with the building that will be the emergency shelter. There were people putting in on that to lease or buy. None of them were shelters. They were all educational or some other benefit to the community. But that facility was there, and it came about in a conversation while we were trying to figure out what we were gonna do this year. For some of the folks who called me who said, why did we wait to the last minute? We didn't. Vice Mayor Hoheisel has been talking about this since March. But the challenge is when you wanna have a building to house the unhoused, they also deserve a decent place to stay. That's one of the main things I've been fighting for everyone. And the challenge is there were buildings that were named downtown. One of those buildings is filled with asbestos right now. There's another building that's been vacant since 2009 that is so dangerous that fire and police are hesitant to go in there. Just because a building is vacant doesn't mean that we can use it as a shelter. You have to have running water, electricity, fire suppression, all of the things that this facility has. Humankind's facility actually needed work on those things, and it wouldn't have been ready until last minute. So this happened really quick. The thing I told our team I wasn't gonna say, I will tell you, was that while we were planning on engaging the community, somebody went to the meeting. Everything got sped up at that point. We didn't have the opportunities to engage like we wanted. The actual plan was to put out about 2,000 door hangers. Those did go out. We were gonna have a meeting with the neighborhood and surrounding areas to talk about that, because north is Northeast Millaire, south is Power. And we were gonna talk through those challenges, talk to the Boys and Girls Club and TOPS. Those conversations are happening with them. And then try to see what we could do with that facility and address all the neighborhood concerns. The first things we talked about was safety and security. So there will be 24/7 security there. The other thing we talked about was making sure no one goes north towards TOPS and the Boys and Girls Club. I brought up the concern of having a liquor store so close. We talked about police presence. And the decision was made to make that a 24/7 shelter, so it's not at 8 o'clock, kick everybody out into the neighborhood. This is not something I wanted. This is not something anybody on the council wanted. We really wanted the original plan to happen, which for 3 years would have been great. That plan hopefully still will come to fruition come January. This facility will be used, but that one will be outfitted for a couple of years while we work on the master plan. The other thing to take note of is this work here is temporary, will not go past March 2024. But the long-term plan is actually a campus. It's something that, again, speed of government has taken too long. I went to San Antonio in 2019, I didn't go on that track, but several of our electeds did. And we've been talking about a campus since then. And they may have been talking about it before then. We didn't talk about that in 2018 when I joined the council. But since 2019, we've been talking about a campus. COVID kind of put a halt to some of that in 2020. We've continued that dialogue. We've been looking at land downtown and also down south for both our in-house population and mental health hospital. That conversation continues to happen, collaboration with city and county. But at this point in time, when this building came up, it just happened to be the building that worked, and we didn't have any other option that would be open anytime soon. So the decision was, do we allow people to be out in the freezing cold with no emergency shelter? Or do we use this temporarily? And unfortunately, this was the facility that we had. We won't have anybody out in the cold, and I know they're working really hard to get that open as soon as possible. But again, it's not something that we're excited about. We didn't want to put it in the neighborhood. There is another option. That option is Goldenrod, if you know where that's at. Goldenrod is a smaller facility. It's in the middle of a neighborhood, down south by Linwood. There are no arterial streets there. And we don't know where folks will go over there. So those were our two city options that we have. There has been some presentations of essentially building tents in the parking lot. I think those are tents. Tents are some really loose structures, no real running water or anything. But again, is that humane for our in-house? And this is kind of where we were. We will talk Tuesday about making sure there's council directive that this will never be a long-term shelter. Again, we do have an RFP on the streets that will end on the 17th. Hopefully, those who bid, we can get somebody in there that again adds 2 opportunity drives. But right now, that was kind of where we landed. It happened a lot quicker than we wanted. We didn't want to put more engagement, but that facility came up. And again, that was a discussion internally, I think. We were looking at something to do with housing, the housing department. And that RFP came up in some discussion, and then they brought it to us to talk about it. And we've all been talking about those concerns, and I told staff to be ready to have more conversations on Tuesday about concerns of the community. So that was how we got there. Yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
How is it doing zone this? What is that area zone this way? How would it originally work?
Given that it was a manufacturing plant, it's probably GC, but I have to look into it.
So Bill Quick came here and dedicated that.
Yeah, that's right. Back in the 90s, I believe.
Still dedicated, probably written something zone, what? You know, the both benefit the neighborhood when they do it.
Yeah, the applicants that want to go in there will, this homeless shelter will not, except for the unhoused right now temporarily. But the uses of that facility after March would probably move those, but the city owns it. We could, but the RFP essentially is looking at the best use over there that's been. So you look at how toxic over there and benefits having an educational type center. Actually, I don't think I thought about it a lot, but I know something similar has been applied for that center as well. That's fundamental life. So after March, again, this will not be the emergency shelter. We'll see some type of similar use.
Being in that community,
Can I ask a question?
you say.
Well, hold on. She did have her hand up first. I had 2 hands and not the back to the side. So.
So I kind of have to say a statement and a question at the same time. I've noticed between the Love's gas station, there's also this pop-up homeless shelter. There's also the pollution that's all in the first district that's still kind of like fizzled out. One thing that I've noticed amongst all of the structures of government is there's always like this gray area of, oh, well, there's we try to let the community know, or we don't have feedback, or something like that happens. I just think it's amazing to me that you guys thought that door knockers would be a suitable notification to let someone know, hey, we're bringing all of the homeless population and all of the things that they uniquely have fit for them. And you know, that comes with them, including the safety of the residents and letting people know, or the decision of like, I don't want this homeless shelter over here. Are there any other options? I don't know. And it's kind of like a statement and a question of like, so how is local government bridging the gap and making sure that the voices are heard? Because those 3 major things are happening in the first district. And it's the same thing. No one ever has an opinion. When we go to the forums, they say, here, fill this out. And maybe we'll answer your questions. So, or we'll come and put a door knocker on your door. So how are you guys bridging the gap? And I feel like it's going to be making it like a normalcy for the first district just to have all these safety measures, because you see all of those HUD houses that are empty. Where do you think those houses people are gonna go? They're getting fed 3 times a day. There's gonna be a Love's truck stop, a 24/7 truck stop there. There's also liquor stores. I know so many dope boys that live in the neighborhood, just to be frank. So they kind of have every single little thing that they need to stay. So how are you guys gonna ensure the safety moving forward and notifying the community for their opinions?
Before I jump into that, what would be your suggestion on notifying?
I personally feel like micro influencers in the area, getting some younger city council members and getting in the people that are, have less than 20,000 followers, that have very tight knit, so they can talk to the elders in their community, talk to the younger people, because it's like the cool auntie uncle kind of vibe, and start getting and mending the gap. That's what I heard there.
We'll definitely take that into consideration going forward. So you overlaid quite a few things. The easiest one to start with is the neighborhood meetings. That's not true. On the cards, we read every single question, we allowed every single person to speak, and we answered every single thing that was said. We offered 3 ways to ask questions. So there were some folks saying we were trying to control everything, we weren't. In spaces even like this, not everybody in here is focused. So there are people who don't want to talk in front of folks. So if we only have an opportunity for you to come up to the mic, what happens if you have a question, but you're too nervous to go ask it, right? That's why we have notebooks, and we'll read those. There are some people who don't want to do that, they want to talk to an expert one-on-one. That's why we got tables. Some of them want to get some greater understanding first with an expert before they come up to the mic. So we offer an inclusive way for everyone to get questions answered. We did that every meeting. We don't control questions, we don't hide any answers for that.
In different forms though, there are different types of scenarios, because I went to like Women's League of Voters at the Botanica, and it's a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
They have breakfast laid out, they're greeting you at the door, they're like, hey, get signed up with our, they're happy. But going over to like, we say Opportunity Drive, I don't feel like there's any opportunity. Because they're like, get in here, sit down, fill out this form, this thing, and make that in. You guys may say, okay, we're gonna answer all of the questions, but when I was there seeing it, it was not that kind of vibe. People, Andre even got her approved, they got up and left, because they were just like, we're not going through this again. I saw plenty of senior citizens very upset because, again, their voices have not been heard, so.
So this last meeting was not that way. There were people upset, but we answered everything, we heard from everyone, and we went right.
Is that gonna be the new normal moving forward, or are you guys gonna say, hey, go back to writing your opinions down, or maybe we have
To offer every possible way for people to ask questions. So the people who want to go to tables, they'll be able to. The people who want to come to the mic, they'll be able to. The people who want to write a question on the card, they'll be able to. Again, we don't monitor those questions, we don't throw things away. Actually, at this last meeting, we only had a couple people leave. But at this last meeting, I actually held the cards intentionally right here. So everybody who can watch, you can see if we were writing questions, you can see I was. And if I looked at the card, I read it, and I put the one that was on top back, and I answered, put the card over here. So I was intentional about that for anyone who said that we were trying to control the answer. When it comes to,
I'm sorry, is it the district advisory board meeting you're talking about?
no, this was a contamination of that.
It was supposed to be a public.
And so our last one was actually city county, the first one was this year, was led by Katie Itchy. When it comes to this area though, in community engagement, we have to do multiple things. So over the years, when we've had issues, maybe it's not contamination, I might go to a neighborhood association meeting. And while I love doing that and talking to people, most of these neighborhood associations represent over 1,000 people. You might get 20 people at that meeting. So I don't mind talking to the neighborhood association, I enjoy it. But also, how do we get to people where they are? So for the door hangers, all of that home direct engagement was my push to say, if I can't get people to come to our greater public meeting, if I can't get people to go to a neighborhood meeting, because this isn't the only neighborhood association in District 1. We put my face on flyers, we knock doors, turnout doesn't always jump unless there's a real issue. So we did flyers, we've done door hangers, we reached out to people with palm trees, we try to reach out to as many people as possible. We recognize we won't get everyone, but we try to find innovative ways to engage the community. When it comes to issues, the most important thing for me, it may not be inviting to not have food, but I've also watched people get cussed out with food. Evergy had a meeting about those polls and community over there. Why are you giving us food? You're trying to get us to shut up. So it's always a balance. Cookies, food, coffee, whatever it is.
So the doctors were in, you guys are important innovation on the same day.
No, we did several things. So the homeless shelter, again, I told you, got rushed. That got leaked to a few people early on. What we were supposed to do and what we really now is just doing in these public meetings was door hangers as a notification. Then we were gonna try to have a conversation about that actually at the building to talk through the neighborhood or anyone else who's concerned, get feedback, and then really commit to, this is done in March of 2024. It's not something, again, that we really want to do. This isn't the ideal place. There's a lot of things that are risk over there. But that was the place that we had, again, unless we want to wait until January. And as everyone is very concerned and compassionate about our unhoused, do we really want to make them wait until January to have a place to go? They don't have an emergency shelter right now. Even right now, that building, it probably won't be open for another 2.5 weeks. Hopefully we have warm weather, but until then, they don't have anywhere to go. Now, we do have a free transit route that will run downtown, so hopefully the folks who need services downtown can get on that bus and go. Buses run every hour.
It's like that to making the North Millar around that area, just the new normal. The new normalcy place is like where the town will go, or if you don't have enough money, or if it's just, I don't know, it's.
That's not the plan at all. I do understand why some people feel that way. That's not the plan.
Okay, so it sounds like this is gonna go forward regardless if we had a conversation with the community or not.
We were going to essentially say in the meeting, we didn't have any other options, so we were gonna ask,
The library.
are you okay?
This is temporary, it's more centrally located downtown.
The library has a lot of issues as well. This one doesn't have those issues. So the library, if you remember when we started the riverfront conversation, although we've done a little bit of work, has a severe leaking roof. So we needed about $12 to $15 million just to fix that in the library. So again, we'd be putting people into a facility that has issues, just to keep them out of a facility that doesn't have those issues.
So it's like 6 of 1, half dozen of another. They did a building that's not really habitable. And then you risk, what is that, Gordon Parks Academy, Boys and Girls Club, top, you got the Northeast Senior Citizens, you got a very vulnerable community over there. Okay, where's this other place that you're talking about that's supposed to be permanent eventually? Where is that located?
They haven't decided that. And again, that's the problem. That's why I say, like, this is a very complex layered issue. They've been working on homelessness and finding a way to get this campus for years. I'll give you another thing that happened back in I think it was 21, because Commissioner Cruz was still a commissioner. As they were talking about the land downtown to use to acquire to make this campus, guess what happened? A leak. So what happened with the properties? They went from whatever price they went to 5 times that much, which then took away the ability for the county to acquire and make this happen. The problem when something gets leaked like that, and in this case, it doesn't bother me that got leaked. I mean, community has to know, we need to have the conversation. But in that case, everyone thinks government just has unlimited funds. So if you own a piece of property and you don't know that the government's wanting to buy that to build a campus, and then you find out one day, well, my land that I might have sold you for 10,000, now I'm on 150, and I'm not going to sell it to you for less. So then they're forced to decide whether they want to do eminent domain, which is highly unpopular, and really to me, that wouldn't be a need for eminent domain, or find somewhere else. These things continue to happen around town. So as they are working their plans, I think they have some locations in mind, and they may have publicly talked about it, but they're still working towards the permanent campus solution, which will make sure that these neighborhoods are not impacted. But until we can get the campus done, we'll have to have temporary shelters. So this one will be until March of 24. The building downtown, hopefully all goes through, then that would be, I think, for another year or two. Hopefully by then, we've got land bought, decided, and we're starting to build for the shelter. But it takes a long time.
So in March, this is supposed to be over with. Where will they go? They get that kind of thing?
Yes. So this is an emergency winter shelter. It's only available because temperatures get below freezing and we want to take care of our house. After March, the temperature, unless we get a freak late winter snow, normally is above freezing, and they go back to hopefully some more supportive services. That's what that campus is for, so that if someone's in the house, there's eyes on them. And if there's some need for medication or any of that, like you have all on the campus, but we don't have a campus right now.
And you're not gonna have all that facilities or, what do you call them? They're not gonna have all those resources up here on 21st Street. And when you go down Broadway, you go down to Topeka, yes, it's heartbreaking. But you're not gonna have all those resources to make them take the medication, do what they need.
But that's the other misconception. See, a lot of us see Open Door on Topeka and think that's what that looks like. Humankind's winter shelter doesn't look like that. It never has. If you didn't know that was Humankind's winter shelter, it looks like Union Rescue Mission. It's just people going in and out. You don't see all of that over there. There may be somebody who comes in with a shopping cart, but they have that brought in. This will not look like Topeka. That is our goals, to make sure that you don't see all those tents and trash and stuff out there. That's really a policy decision Open Door has downtown. It's one that we've all been in the room talking to them about, and they haven't changed. But that's why you see all of that out there. Humankind is a more respectful, inclusive organization. They will bring people in. They will service them inside. They will make sure that they are treated humanely.
So the people that we see on Topeka and Broadway, they may not be coming up on 21st Street.
If they come up there, it will not look like what we see out there. They will not be camped outside like that. How's the name? And
This is what I'm going to say. That door knocker was not an initiative to inform us or engage us. It went out simultaneously with your press release to tell us what was going to happen. Nobody asked us anything. Everything in Northeast Wichita is being dictated. Our environment is being dictated by the city of Wichita, and not allowing us to have any input in that at all. Goldenrod, I understand what you said about the streets, but we have hundreds and thousands of kids right there. We know that our homeless population, because of the work that HOP has done and everybody else in the city, we know that that population, 50% of it or more at this point, is either mentally ill or they are addicted to some illegal substance. There's no way, and we talk about security, one person cannot defend that situation. And there's only gonna be one person there at a time. I've talked to the directors of both facilities. Neither one of them are happy because they've got to figure out, how am I gonna keep these kids safe? How am I gonna do that? We gotta figure out, we have kids that walk to school. Would you allow your child to walk through that? We have kids that walk to and from the Boys and Girls Club. And it's essential that they go because sometimes that's the only meal they get. But now, we have seniors right across the street. There's a senior center right there. That door's open. They can't stop people from coming in and out of there. I talked with the district, the director of the Boys and Girls Club. They're gonna have to come over. They're going to tighten up their own security. We're already 100 police officers or more short on our police staff. We're putting a 20-acre truck stop on one side of the community, and now we're gonna put this on the other side. We're hemmed in with nothing but disastrous things. We can't continue to allow that to happen. What's gonna happen to our seniors? What's gonna happen to our children? What's gonna happen to our streets? You say it's not gonna look like that, but the homeless are the homeless, and their habits don't change, no matter where you live.
some of them, yes. Even your rescue mission does not look.
We've got more homeless now than we've ever had before.
It's been a spot.
So why bring them from downtown and put them right in the heart of the community?
Because Goldenrod is the same.
Well, you know what? Is it that close to the Boys and Girls Club? Is it that close to a facility that kids frequent every day? Is it?
I believe so, yes.
You need to find out, because what you're doing to us is not good.
Okay.
It's not, and nobody over there is happy about it. And so to say that your initiative was to put out that door knocking, you know, because an initiative happens before the situation takes place. That was simultaneous with the press release. That's
So
what's important
again,
to us.
it was-
It's not engaging.
It was simultaneous because it got linked to the press. We didn't have an option.
Y'all know when we're talking every month.
That's actually, so again, as I said to everybody else, that part is actually inaccurate. So we have been working on other locations. This was not even a location that had come up in any topic or conversation until that church fell through. And then we saw that we had this publicly owned facility, that we were looking for other places. And yes, we have Goldenrod as well, which is also in the middle of the neighborhood. I don't know how to convey more than what I've said. This is not something we actually want. This is not something that we like, and we are aware not everyone is happy about that. We wanted the downtown site. That fell through. Our goal is to go back to that downtown site and hopefully get the contracts and everything signed so that in future years, it won't be here. The guarantee though, is that after March of 2024, this will not be an emergency shelter. There will not be. It will be voted on Tuesday and I will be the one to bring it up. We will make sure that it's not. This is not, again, something that we wanted. As far as neighborhood engagement goes, I do want to say, I don't know what happened before me in office. I don't know who did what. I don't judge them. As an activist, I am a door person. I believe in my doors. I believe in putting flyers out. I believe in door hangers. That is a way to engage. That is a way the city doesn't always engage. We also do phone trees. And my goal is to continue to find ways to meet people where they are and talk to them there. We are not perfect. I will be the first one to tell you that. We do not reach everyone. We sent out a postcard in the mail for our meeting. Not everyone got that. Our goal is to continue to try to reach people where they are in any way that we can. And when we find something that works, we want to build upon it. Nothing's going to be perfect. You can be sure that we are going to continue to try different ways. But again, when it comes to engagement, I started off my term that way. I told people when I got elected, my goal was to get engaged in neighborhoods. Since then, anytime we have had a special meeting that we want to call to help a neighborhood association grow, we're not doing it. We're talking to them. Doesn't always work. The neighborhood around Atwater still doesn't have an active association. We knocked every one of those doors 5 times. And we talked to people about coming. We didn't have anybody that wanted to step up and lead the association. So we're going to continue to try. I know that not everyone is happy with me, my level of engagement, how I communicate, how the city does it, but we're going to keep trying. And I understand that frustrates some of us. Mr. Roseborough, then the later.
I just want to make a comment. Been active in that neighborhood on the First Street corner. I'm okay on the bed, I made with association. This, and this one was back off. The people should have been notified well before that door hanger went out. I don't care where you went, there's nobody knew that. They moved the Marion still out from down there, then go bring this other unit in here. And it do seem like that neighborhood is being picked on, but it isn't being picked on. And I'm not blaming you for it, or nobody else. I do know we need a place for home. But that's number one thing that people need to look at. But number two thing here, I don't care. You keep saying April of 2024. Really, some of us have been in this fight a long time. I believe that when I see it.
That's why I asked you if we can write it.
And
You need that.
We have council vote.
you got a canvas and sign on it that's closed up.
Empty.
It's empty, and this is a large canvas.
Yeah.
Somebody just.
So I'm glad you brought it up. That was one of the buildings. That building will not go for anything less than the debt that they are. So we wanted that. That was one of the spaces. And talking to that property owner, I think they have a lien on that of $17 or $18 million. They wanted that plus some more. And they would not come down, even though it's a good benefit. So that one got crossed off. I'll tell you another place we looked at. That hospital on West Central, the Oranges Brick Building. Yeah, that one costs too much as well. They've been trying to do their due diligence to find a location. They just haven't been able to find an affordable location to do this. Every time they think they found something, doesn't work out. The Shriner Building downtown, that was another one of the buildings. That building was full of asbestos. We couldn't put unhoused people in a building full of asbestos. And again, every time someone finds a building, they come to that group, that committee, and they talk about it. They go vet it. But it just hasn't been one that actually works out because of all of those other issues.
Well, just on Ash Street, you got all of those boarding up houses. If that's the case, the city on these homes already. Contact those homes, you need to tear them out, put up a home shut. And again, that will get calls because it's committed into the neighborhood.
Yeah, but we want homeowners in there, and we can't do that without HUD approval. That's why those buildings are vacant now. HUD has to approve every time you say, we wanna put these on the market, we want families in there. We gotta wait on HUD. Once HUD says yes,
The only other thing is go on, spend your money, buy a building. And get on, that's how you can solve the phone. And then you're not gonna solve it then. You can do $1 million house and people don't wanna live in it, they don't wanna live in it. But that be one way to say, we've done something about it. Right now, this homeless thing is getting worse, year in and year out. They're working on the same thing 15, 20 years. No progress, we right now where we were. So you want to take that relation?
well, I agree with that, and I think that, and I'll find out the dates and times of those meetings, but more people need to be there to talk through.
Really, I mean, and I want everybody else, that he does support what he's saying and be on time. Young lady, this is the first meeting I've ever seen that. No, no action, I don't even know. I'm not calling it out. But some of us been doing this stuff, I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
I'm son will be like this, nice, coming and getting my age.
Yeah, all it comes down to is money. No money, no money, no money. All we got to go, no money, no money.
It's not the no money.
No money.
It's not money. It's not no money, it's not much.
Just make a difference. Other things is going on. We got here.
Okay, so we take, we just looked at Colorado Springs for city to city, and if you take San Antonio, who paid for those? It wasn't the city. San Antonio had a billionaire say, here's $100 million. It wasn't the city. Colorado Springs had wealthy donors doing that. Now, as the county and city get this plan going for the campus, I think you'll see some donors. You won't see billionaires doing it, because the billionaires here, I don't think are interested in that. But that's been the biggest challenge. A lot of these cities have larger philanthropy that helps out. So it's not us raising the tax dollars, it's not us taking away from infrastructure improvements to do it. It's those people putting money into it. And we're just now seeing some of that really get started here in the city. But until we have that plan, that campus, the land, everybody can see what that's gonna look like and move forward to, I don't think you'll see any contributions to it. That's the challenge, because if we do take $20 million out of the general fund, what does that stop? Pretty much everything we're trying to do to improve the community. All of the money for roads, all of the money to fix up facilities like this, when all these windows were broken out. It's that money that we would take to go build that. And we wouldn't see those improvements, and we know how hard it is to get money in our community now. We wouldn't see that come back. It's really reasonable when we start seeing more of that comes in.
But as long as we start spreading out, they're gonna spend that money on spread out. That this part of the scheme.
There's a lot of money in this.
Some of it spread out, they keep spreading.
It's not, but that's not city taxpayer dollar. So again, if Brandon Johnson has $50 million and I buy this land, it's not your money, that's my money that I buy. Now the city takes time to go through the plat and approval and all of that. That is city time, that's where your dollars will come in. Every building of the house, all of that is my money that I'm spending to build this neighborhood out. Your money comes into play once those specials are gone and those streets and stuff get taken care of. And that's 10, 15 years down the line. That's their funds on that. Our funds are all in the core and what we currently have. Again, I know it's a lot to all of that, but that's where that comes into play. I had this young lady.
Okay, here's my question, I want to help me understand, did you say you were gonna have a vote to make sure that it's closed in March?
Yeah, so Tuesday's council vote is for the $665,000 that will go towards making this happen. Humankind is adding 200,000 to that because it's 885 altogether. That 665 arranges a little bit of things inside to make sure everything is safe, secure, and separated, and improves the fire suppression system and a few other things. And then after that, I can either tie it to a motion to approve on that, or we can have a separate vote under a council agenda that essentially would have the policy that this is no longer an emergency shelter after March of 2024.
So what if it does not get voted in that way, so it just continues?
I'm pretty confident from the conversation that I had. The votes are there for that.
And when's this vote?
Tuesday. It's the last item we're public.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it doesn't go that way, is it gonna continue to be,
It won't. I mean, so here's,
you're guaranteeing us that.
here's why,
Right,
but here's why.
okay.
So the writing, in this case, other than the simple language of saying that, it's complicated, but there's an RFP, request for proposal out on that building right now. That building, that RFP closes on November 17th. That means the city is entertaining an entity leasing or buying that building. If, once we get that in, evaluate those, and one of those gets recommended to the council and we vote on that, that is what that building is. So even without a policy Tuesday of saying it won't be an emergency shelter after March of 2024, that RFP on the street guarantees that that building will be something else. The only thing that can stop that, and we'll get sued if we do it, is we stop the process now. Because people are applying, and we say, we changed our mind. That's not fair to anybody who applied, and that does violate our policies and procedures. We don't do that as a city. So, as those RFPs come in, there will be a committee that evaluates those for a best use. Given today's conversation, I'll see where community can get input in that, because normally that's just a separate committee that evaluates those. Once a recommendation is there, I can make sure the neighborhood associations know it, so Northeast know they're empowered. What that building could be if council approves and get people's feedback, but no matter of a policy vote Tuesday, which again, I've already talked to the mayor about doing it, and Representative Carr and Senator Fausto, so they'll all be looking for that as well Tuesday, so that will happen. But either way, the RFP will guarantee that building won't be an emergency shelter after March.
Do you have a list of all the presidents and all the districts? Do you have a list?
Yes.
Email, or you do send that information to? Because-
So I have, Tasha has worked to update that list. There was a point in time where I was emailing the presidents quarterly to do like an all neighborhood meeting, and I never got all the neighborhoods coming. And then people would reach out and say, hey, I'm not the president anymore, or such and such passed. So we started a District 1 pilot, and we don't have all neighborhoods participating in that, where I ask that every year we get a new neighborhood sheet with contact information of the president, or the exec teams, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and make sure that that's up to date. And if we had that, then we know we're talking to the right people. In this case, I've known this, I've made the president in the state of Carlos before, Northeast there. So I knew them. But as far as all the neighborhoods, that was one of the things I wanted to do. But then somebody, the new president, Mr. Rolo, the new president again, doesn't like me doing that. And he thinks I'm overstepping my boundaries by trying to talk to neighborhood association presidents that I represent. So I backed off for a little bit to see if Wayne was gonna only engage in District 1. That was my challenge. And then he's had a lot of stuff going on, so nothing bad about him, but that didn't happen. And so I intend to re-engage like I said I would, because to me, if I don't have that conversation, things don't change. And all of that came about from animal control. So when I got elected, I heard about a lot of dog fighting and Matlock Heights. I didn't hear Northeast Mill, Sun Power, Price Woodard, and there was another neighborhood. And the animal control director then kind of went through a presentation with me on recognizing dog fighting. And I said, well, this just makes more sense to get all the neighborhood presidents. So we can, really look through our neighborhoods to get this to stop, because it was pretty bad at the time. So that's what made me want to start that. But then I realized real quickly, we have presidents who've been president for like 12 to 15 years with no elections. We have neighborhoods that want to start separate associations because of some of that. So I really wanted to try to get all of that, everybody on the same page, and then figure it out. The only way I can be successful as a council member is if we have successful neighborhoods, and not every part of District 1 has a neighborhood association or an active one. Some of them have even switched to annual meetings, which doesn't help me, one, connect with them in that way, and then two, when I give updates, and Tasha was at one of them, I talked for 45 minutes about everything we were doing, and then they complained afterwards that I talked to them. It's only one meeting a year, so, I know personally, and it's my goal, and whoever's gonna see that from you, that we continue to engage in neighborhoods. Sometimes things happen really quickly, which is unfortunate, and then other times, we just have to figure out a better way to do it. One of the things that was really helpful, and I don't know if everybody in here did it, because I wasn't interested in local government at the time, my nonprofit. We have a core, we would do these neighborhood night out block parties. There was some funding from the Health Foundation that flowed through the Y that you apply for a neighborhood, you get $1,200. So we would do that for National Night Out at the time and go buy for produce and bikes and stuff. We had like 600 people show up. That was a good event, and then it stopped for whatever reason. And that's been something I've been saying, like, it'd be nice to see that available for every neighborhood to continue to do. Unique engagement opportunities, but that's not there. And then the money in the District 1 grant isn't enough to give every neighborhood association that regularly. We did it once, so so it's just a struggle.
Just take care of the dead trees.
And that's it.
Sir, on the top hat, thank you for acknowledging, yes, this is my first time ever coming to this meeting, and it's been amazing dialogue, so I'm so stoked. And I've met you on several other occasions, but I am a chameleon of aesthetics, so I love being out here and being able to maneuver around, but I do have a few questions, so if you guys are assuring that it's going to not be a permanent housing community, homeless shelter, how are you, again, going to ensure the safety and moving forward, notifying the community of decisions like this being made? Because again, I think the common duality is the neighborhood and the people that live in this neighborhood feel like they're just getting trampled over because it's just back to back to back.
So we're the ones to continue to try to talk to people in any way we can. Honestly, I mean, there is no one solution to that. And if you had it, I'd love to hear it, but it's not TV. I can tell you this from political campaigns, the majority of people in my campaign, I never ran a TV commercial. They saw it on social media, or they heard it on the radio, still you catch it. So we'll continue to try to knock doors, we'll try postcards, we'll try flyers, we'll do palm trees, we'll come to neighborhood meetings. But aside from that, we'll just try to see what actually works. If influencers are that vain, I've watched that. I've seen a couple neighborhoods who say they want to have a meeting about an issue, they need support. We give them support, we do printing, we do stuff like that, and they want to take that on because they can do better than us. Cool. And then it doesn't work out. So I'm open to all of it. I don't have one solution for it. But I can say is I will try to talk to people in any way possible to get them to know it. Somebody brought up churches, bro. Not knocking all of our churches, but you don't know how many emails I've sent to churches for announcements to be read, and they don't get read. I just did it for me. I sent out an email to 82 churches. Actually, I didn't send an email. I sent an actual print letter to those churches and said, please read this in your announcements. And one Sunday morning, I went to 3 churches. I just sat in the back. I heard announcements, no, I didn't hear what I said. And I know they got it because I sent it on Monday.
You forgot your name on me.
So that's what I'm saying. Again, I'm open to communicating in any way possible. If you give me an idea, I'll do it. But a lot of this stuff, as we try it, we just don't see it. And if I'm trying to get to, for some of the stuff I've sent out 80-something churches, I can't get there for all the announcements. And that might be my only way I'll do it. And to be honest, sometimes pastors don't want you up there unless y'all done had a meeting first. So I tell you what you can and can't say before. So again, that adds more time. So I'm not saying that as any discouragement, I'm just saying, we keep trying, and we'll keep trying other stuff.
I cannot pivot. That used to be a whole thing off of 13th and Oliver. Everybody used to love to go out there and after the club, be outside, just in a very comfortable way. If people are going and meeting at churches, they have to park. So they're not gonna let you speak because clearly they're there to serve in the day of, the Lord.
So catch them in the parking lot.
If you have to.
Guess what? I did that.
Okay,
I've been to churches, I put stuff on the cars in the parking lot, I've sat out there, I've had people come at me from the church and say, you didn't ask for permission, and they take it all off the car.
What churches are you going to? That's a factor. And then you need to get us the information so that we can take it to our churches.
Happy to do this.
Okay.
But when I say churches, I'm not saying like 5 or 6 specific, like literally, we would have teams up and down the arterials. If you was a church and you was a little building, we was there. If you was a church and you had a huge parking lot, we was there. I can't even tell you every name of every church. When we saw a church, when we saw a cross, we was there. So, and I've even sent letters and put flyers in some of those churches. I haven't done this since early in the pandemic, because that changed a little bit of the dynamic, but I sent out a flyer and a letter to churches that I found. I was just going through churches, religious institutions online, going through the community. I had compiled 117, and I put a terrible sheet and said, please give me the contact information for who I can send information to get to the community. I got like 10 of them. So I'm not making any excuses. I'm happy to continue to try that. And anything else, if it's getting you information to take to the church or the pastor, happy to do it. I've been wanting to see better communication too, because I know we don't do the best job, and that's one of the things we always talk about. So that's why you see all these different things. The postcards, that was me saying, can you just try to mail something? Because with Evergy, so in this case, we got, I think I saw those are 8-inch card door hangers we put out for this. Evergy, we put, it was a white plastic bag with orange on it that says City of Wichita, and we hung it on the doors. And that was to try to figure out the routes on the poles. I then went back myself, and I went and knocked every door that should have had that. And about half the doors I knocked, they were like, oh, I didn't read that, I just threw it in the trash. So again, we continue to try different things. I spend a lot of my time trying to find ways to communicate with people. Happy to take any other suggestions. I do not take offense to that. But I'm just saying, we're gonna keep trying. We'll try to find any creative way we can talk to people about it.
You are long with it, you're a politician. But I didn't see that the meeting was changed from Atwater to here. So had the lady not called Thursday and I answered the phone, I would have been at Atwater.
So if you go to the Wichita District 1 page, it was posted on there, was that yesterday or Thursday? Normally it gets.
I just told you.
Yeah, everything is on the District 1 page, and then I normally share from that, because I want more people focused on that. More information about what happens in the community comes from the District 1 page. But just so you know, every quarter I rotate this meeting. Me and Tasha will work out the schedule for next year. So that's every 3 months. Like,
So December, we're gonna be here.
it'll be back at Atwater. So I keep it at Atwater most of the year, and then at sometime in the quarter, normally it's that middle month, I'll rotate it up. So normally when everything was open and when we had Linwood, I rotated it. Let's say we did January, February at Atwater, March would be at Linwood. Then we come back to Atwater for 2 months, and then we come here. Then we go back to Atwater for 2 months, then we go to McAdams. And then, that's how we rotated it. Next year, we won't have Brewer, we don't have Linwood anymore. So I'll be looking at something else that, my goal was to expose everyone in the district to more of the district. For a lot of years, everything happened at Atwater, which was great. We all know that's there. The first time I did it at Linwood, people were like, wow, I didn't even know this facility was here. So I really want to expose people to all of the district and everything that we have to show. So we won't be back here into that front list then, so I'm gonna show that off. When we come back here, it'll be notified, so I'll say it at the breakfast at Atwater like I did last time. I'll say next month we're at Edgewater. And then when it goes on the flyer, it'll be there. So it'll be in the newsletter and on there. And again, I know that may not be the best way to communicate. I think Julie does a phone tree for all the numbers we have. So anybody who signs up on there who doesn't put their phone number won't be on the phone tree. But if we have your number, we try to give you a call as well.
With that, you would like to post this somewhere in District 1, we are open for please have
You do that too?
I have financing, I don't know how many times that I really ever get a call, and she tells them to call me with my telephone number and my email address.
Didn't the calls just start last month?
It was 2, 3.
Yeah.
Oh, I.
So it stopped during the pandemic and me and Tasha were talking, and I was just like, man, we got, so we used to have 60 people, we used to have 60 people.
Yeah.
out there. And I was like, man, we gotta get back to that. Are we still doing the phone tree? And we had stopped. Like, let's try that. So that's how Mr. Barnes came one time and made a call. But I really want to get back to having that many people. Because I think it was good. We had really good dialogue like we are now. So again, any way we can communicate with people on that.
Okay, a couple more questions. Would there be, which we don't really like, too often, would there be increased police presence in the neighborhood with this shelter?
I have a meeting with Captain Rakestraw on Monday morning about that. I've already told him I want to see that, so we get a plan out for that. He's already worked with Loves, so that came up then, to work out a plan there. And we'll see if we can get that going. One of the requests I've already made to the city manager was officers who are doing paperwork. Like I see them sometimes in different parking lots to have them on
So you said that they can't go north of Tops or north towards Tops.
There's no reason for anyone in that facility to go north of that facility. It's been top of the way.
So there will be 24/7 between someone within the shelter and someone who just lives in the neighborhood.
We have to find out the transit situation, even though we don't have that. I've spoken with the director.
You say call now for transit, what do you mean?
They have to call the police because they have transient.
Transient, oh, I thought you said transit, okay, gotcha.
So I'm not familiar with it. Is this the former learning center?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a possibility to put up a temporary fence?
We are around the part that's not fenced, and then we talked about where else to go. That parking lot is fenced down to the south part of the north part of the property. And we are actively looking at, is there another way to secure that even more? My assumption, again, I have my briefing on Monday, is that we'll have security down there, making sure that no one is coming out of that building and then going back north, because there's nothing north for them. Just stop from where the girls.
They go south either, I live south of there, and I like to be outside.
A lot of the conversation right now is making sure that transit route is known. That's why it's 24/7. Again, we don't want to kick everybody out at 8 o'clock and then they're just in the community. Yes, there are security cameras. And so that's again, like there was a lot of things in the facility that worked. We can get those on the outside as well. And some of that will be working with humankind on them. So
What is the total, the maximum number? Yeah, that can go into that building.
250.
And they'll be transported from where, or how will they get to that building?
We have a free transit route, but we also have other partners that can help to and from. There's a few church partners Humankind has made that will handle some transportation with their vans. Plus our free transit, and we're still working on ways to make sure that there's more opportunity to get them out of there securely to wherever they need to go for service.
Are they limited on the time they can be there?
I don't believe so, since it's an emergency winter shelter, but it is 24/7, so the hope is 3 meals and whatever's in there. Either they want to stay in there or they go out to their resources and then they would come back to that facility.
We got 250 new names.
I think on the side, kind of like, not a random question, but it's totally relevant. I know that Wichita was one of the cities to possibly get approved for the face scanning, recognizing cameras. Is the 21st Street with all of the new business that's coming into the area? Do you know if the police department with, their $150 million of funding or however much it is, are they gonna be putting those cameras over there to start testing them?
No.
And
Right now-
how do we change the policy? So if there is an influx of potential 250 new residents of the area, how are we going to be assuring the safety again of the people potentially up there, or what may be coming in with it?
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of that technology
Yeah.
personally. That's too big brother for me. There are some people that like it, I don't. We have our flock system over there, so that does get license plate pictures. But the safety piece is gonna be working with WPD on either increased patrols or having more people there during this time. As far as the truck stop goes, Love's has already agreed to partner with the city on the flock technology. Now, Wichita is looking at trying to work towards a real-time crime center, which will attach a bunch of things. I don't know there's a majority of us that are supportive of these. Because there's technology in other cities, I think Dallas, Austin is one of them, where they have cameras that can actually read your phone while you're on.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, see, we don't want all that,
Yeah, they catch it.
and I can't make any commitments past 2026. I don't know what the next council member may or may not do. I'm not a fan of facial recognition technology. I don't want to pilot it in our community. We tend to not do pilots in Northeast Wichita. There are some times it's been suggested, but we haven't piloted.
I think probably everyone's trying to area for potentially putting those cameras at one point.
There are lots of conversations you'll hear about,
Yes.
but ultimately, when it comes to me, that does not.
Like the perfect scenario to kind of test technology that way.
Actually, Niagara Grove wouldn't be. It would be a
Well,
place
it's
where you can.
streets with all of the different types of people that are gonna be coming around in that area.
That's
And trafficking being a really common thing within Wichita.
The
already.
best place to try that is actually downtown by the train, where you have way more people who test and see how all that stuff
Well,
works.
and you get an opportunity on opportunity drive. You never know.
That won't happen with Don.
I see the love, the construction of the new entrances and exits on the K-96 and the hydraulic and all that, because they're right by the farm. So how far are we into this process? When is Love's going to start construction? What's going on with, can you give us some time on it?
Are you talking 21st and 135 or K-96?
Well, all that construction is going on in that area. Cause K-96 is, they're building the new ramps, on and off ramps. So where's the Love's going to be positioned and?
So there's actually three things happening. Love's is 21st and 135 on the west side, so where ICT 21 is at. All those large.
Yes, the large round,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
So just east of those, closer to the highway is where the Loves will go, but that's 21st and 135.
Okay,
K-96 and hydraulic technically is the last part of, wow, I just forgot the name of that. Yeah, it'll come back to me later. The
but
big
those,
thing,
but those changes of those exits and on ramps will affect the traffic going into Love's, am I correct?
it should, because that's north side on 135. So if you were going to Love's from the north, you would continue south on 135 and then you would get off on 21st.
First, they go to the right,
Right,
okay,
so that's that.
okay.
And then the thing I can't remember right now, which is crazy, because that was our #1 project in the state. Anyway, that's happening up there to alleviate congestion, all those new ramps that are going east-west.
K-96, okay.
Yeah, and then you have east of that on K-96, we're about to start making that a 6-lane highway. And that's gonna happen from K-96 and Hillside all the way to Webb. And that's happening, that's a KDOT project, I think it's 250 million, mostly funded there. And it will start this, they've been having open houses, I forget this little thing, whatever it's called, but they changed the lane, it's like an inverted something, that's gonna happen on Hillside, Oliver, Woodlawn, Rock Road, and Webb Road.
So when are they gonna start that?
I believe they break ground on that next year.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I was told you.
Okay, so it's Love's on the north side or south side of 21st?
Love's is on the north side, on the west side of
Unless somewhere it's, there was conflicting information, because first it said north and somewhere it said south side. It's gonna be on the north side.
I believe it's the north side.
It's right
So
It'll be honest.
where those buildings go, like the pie place is gonna be, it'll be across the street,
Yeah,
not on that same side.
yeah, but those, they're gonna be building those types of buildings over there as well. ICT 21 was a north and south of 21st Street development. They acquired all that land over like 20 years and went through all the deed stuff to get that. Probably something.
Okay, sometimes I walk along the bike paths. On the bike.
Yeah.
So I know when you get trying
Let us know if things are happening that we need to pay attention to. I mean, we'll be looking to, but if something's happening during the day that I may not see, like your class, we'll make sure we get on.
I'm gonna quit. Yeah. Please try to get along with each other. I'm gonna have we're trying to get on the heads. That's
Everyone's trying to get your attention.
don't get the first of these stuff. It's about 4 days. 5 neighbors. There's a 5. University right there. I think open. No one was scared from the kid.
We're doing food, isn't it?
You know, she ready. So we can set up there. So I'm going to sit down. And I'm going to find that it means existing. I don't think I want to help them. So then that's less. I don't know if I can do less than all. Yeah, back. 6 years I was in my house.
Yep.
Yes, so that's the only thing we.
All right, so appreciate you all being here today. Next month is at Atwater.
And it won't last for 1 o'clock.
And the special guest is just me. I know I'm not as excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.